Welcome to the GameChanger 00100 show. I am your host, GameChanger. So, lately, I have noticed that a lot of Black women are emailing me and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, talking about the Black church and how it convinced them to be single. And since it's Sunday, wanted to talk about it with you all. They mentioned things like the rules that church invoke on you, like, no SE triple X before marriage. You can't do this, you can't do that. And they don't actually help you find a mate, but they offer restrictions for when you do. This doesn't help. They don't introduce you to an eligible young man, but they say when you go through the journey of finding an eligible young man yourself, you have to not do things that other women who are available to this man are willing to do. Meaning that he has a choice between not being with you or being with her. Hit the like button. And this extraordinarily limits the church's options. Also, there seems to be an imbalance in the Black church solely between men and women, meaning that there are a lot more women in the Black churches than there are men. And there is a very clear reason for that, which I'm going to say in the future. And by in the future, I mean right now. The reason for that is because the Black church, ever since Suge Avery took over in The Color Purple, began to cater to and pander to women. You see, the church used to set a standard for everybody. Like if you were a sinner of some sort, male or female, the church would call you out for it. They stopped doing that when it came to women. And perhaps this is because if they called out every sinner in the church, then there would be no congregation and there would be no church. So they just decide to ignore the pregnant woman who's sitting in the front pew while you talk about the, no SE triple X before marriage. They just ignore all the sins as it pertains to them, fornication, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what men have found is that you're not going to find a Proverbs 31 woman in church. In fact, they have found that church is downright hostile towards men, because if a single woman who was SE triple X irresponsible, were to live without consequences, this is a place where she is not consequences, and she's not judged. Who is judged? Oh, the man that put her in that position. Or a man who didn't step up soon enough and allowed her to be in that position. It's another place in the world where the women are not held accountable and the men are held omni accountable. Not a good place. And it comes on at the same time as football. So there's a lot of reasons why they simply don't go. And finally, men do not have the social thirst that women have. We don't need a community bubble the way women do, to just feel entertained. So just don't do it. So those are some of the major reasons that it's there. Now, to answer the topic question, do the Black church keep Black women single? The short answer is no, it don't. The long answer is Black women keep Black women single. You see, the church, just like the government, just like marriage itself, just like any institution, is a tool that women morph into whatever agenda they have. Black women for quite some time have made their agenda clear. Their agenda is to control Black men. That's it. That's all. And in order to do this, they're willing to manipulate the government through welfare, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, the legal system through child support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The educational institutions, the we're the most educated degree, all that stuff. They manipulate every institution they can in order to achieve that one goal, and that is to control black men, even the institution of parenthood, the criminal justice system. So for anybody to think that church would be any different is delusional. Church is an institution that black women manipulate to once again control black men. That's the end game. Now, when black women are serious about finding a good church man and they are good church women, they don't wait until they're 30 plus to do so. The church seemed to have an extraordinarily aged population, the black church do. In fact, the only young people that are there are the illegitimate children of the sinful women that are going to the church. But do you find women who are of the age to be for the streets on the church or in the church? Ever notice that? You never really find like the 18 to 29-year-old Shay Sade looking ones that are just there waiting to find Mr. Right. Do you? It always seemed that it's a place that they go after they want to appear to be done having fun. Just saying. But we're going to get deeper into this. So Andrew, he says, ideally the church should tell people the things they need to hear. Yes, not the thing that they want to hear. I agree. But instead they tell people what they want to hear. Yeah, you read my mind. Yeah. Because most preachers are grifters. I think that the black church, in addition to preachers being grifters, I think the black church is very poor. I think that many black churches are one collection plate away from closing down. And I'm talking about the smaller missionary Baptist churches. And these churches that are one collection plate that from closing down do not have the wherewithal to actually speak up, to say what's really on their mind. Because once again, it's closed down. Now, Catholic churches, or larger mega churches, they have the ability to do that. They are capable of doing that. And, there are enough people who want to be congratulated for following his path properly, the Most High's path properly. Then there are people who are just there to hear what they want to hear and hear that they're good people that's going to go to heaven no matter what they do. Hit the like button, people. Hit that like button. So, going to examine a couple of videos. In fact, let me see if I can find the TikTok version of this video. Or actually, no. I'll just go straight to it. I think this person has commentary, Quad Gibbons, but I don't know if so. I'll give my commentary on his commentary. So. Churches are guided by the culture when they should be the ones given the culture, where they should definitely be the ones guiding the culture. And for a very long time, they were the ones guiding the culture, but then they stopped. I'm going to talk about why they stopped and the ramifications of what happens when they do stop. I mean, one, there is legal conflicts. There isn't really a separation of church and state. There's just the illusion of separation of church of state, which is why there are marriage and divorce laws. Marriage being a holy thing, laws being a state thing. However, there are marriage and laws. So nevertheless, without complete separation of church and state, the church had its hands tied behind its back on how much it can control culture and society. And they didn't, unlike other churches, they were very unable and unwilling to adapt, especially the Black churches. But let's see what this crazy-eyed woman has to say.
I'm starting to believe that the church is keeping Black women single on purpose. I am starting to believe that the Black church is keeping Black women single. I'm trying to figure out why we are almost intentionally leaving out that God's word also says that a man is a woman's covering.
We are being told as women.
I didn't know that preachers omit that part. I didn't. But once again, if they are conditioned to tell women what they want to hear, then yeah, these are going to be the results.
To just wait and sit and serve and wait and sit and serve. The reason I'm upset about it is because there are women that are doing exactly that, waiting, sitting, and serving for years, some 10 years, some 12 years, some even longer than that. But because all they've been taught is to wait and sit and serve and to never actually try to do anything on the dating market, they're watching people pass them by, getting married left and right, praying all the prayers, doing all the right things on paper, and quite literally losing hope. It hurts me to see a woman wait for years and years and years and years and years, getting so discouraged, and then finally giving up on the idea of ever getting married, all because they've been taught wrong.
The Black church is
Okay, fellas, I'm going to give you an assignment for next Sunday. This is a scavenger hunt. I want you to go to your nearest Black church, your nearest. And I want you to find the young Black woman that is sitting and waiting, that's sitting there by herself, just waiting for you to come and rescue her. You actually have a better chance of going to the woods and seeing Snow White laying there asleep. You have a better chance of doing that. You actually have a better chance of going into a woman's slimy cellar where you find Cinderella there waiting for you. They're creating these illusions. I mean, don't get me wrong. Do those women exist? Yes. But these women are old, and they're not old because they have been sitting and they're waiting since they were 18. No, they old because they started waiting at 35. But hey, go on a scavenger hunt. Go on a scavenger hunt and tell me what you find. Email me what you find. Tell me about the virgin that you found there.
focus is not on building families. It's about keeping women single, comfortable, independent. I said what I said. Just look at the numbers. The church is 70 to 80% single women. And the pastor want to sell these women this fairy tale telling them that your Boaz is coming. Keep waiting, knowing good and well that there isn't any single men in the congregation. And that's low-key manipulation, because the men aren't flocking to the churches because the churches are catered to women.
Yeah.
If the church is really about family, why is it full of single mothers, single women, and empty of men? Because the Black church...
There you go. She just killed it. She just killed it. If the church is about family, why is it full of single mothers?
Needs the women single, desperate, and waiting.
Churches control the mother, the prisons control the father, and the schools control the children. you will not hear nothing in church about the family structure, because they still want to present it to these black women like, oh, it's okay that you're single. You can go on being single and still be happy and live your life without a man. No, they don't want to talk about nothing except.
No, they don't want. Once again, this goes into the category of telling them what they want to hear. And they don't want to hear the virtues of married life while they're single. Kind of like poor people don't want to hear how great it is to be rich. Homeless people in the snow don't want to hear about, how warm your place is, how cozy your fireplace is. So once again, because Missionary Baptist Church tend to be poorer, they try to avoid things that would put the women off, especially if the majority of their congregation is single women. Now, the last person got it twisted. The church isn't shaping the women to be single. Single women are shaping the church to appease them. And in shaping the church to appease them, it became repulsive to men. Because quite frankly, the women themselves are repulsive to men. So everything that they trust, that they corrupt, like the church, will be equally repulsive.
For that building fund that those women need to keep adding to every month. They are not encouraging the family unit in these churches.
The church is keeping Christian women single, and this is why there are so many Christian single women at the church, literally single for years, not getting married, not getting any type of dates, not getting any type of attention. While they're serving at church, they're doing all the right things on paper. They might be in great physical shape. They might have their healing journey all, through and through. They're doing the inner work. They're doing all that. They are focused. They are focused on Christ. They've been focused on Christ for years. They have been doing the things that people have been telling them to do for years, yet they're still single, have no candidates, have nobody looking in their direction. Let me tell you something. The church does not teach Christian women how to date. The church does not teach Christian women to date at all.
Okay. Once again, the black church is not modernizing. It doesn't teach them how to date. It teaches them what the Bible says about dating, no SEXXX before marriage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem with that is that it's a very antiquated thing. Like rules like that are decent rules when people married at 12 years old. These rules do not really apply to large metropolitan areas, and it don't apply to when people don't even start to think about marriage until they're, already at least 6 years into puberty. It just don't. It also don't really apply to a society where divorce is not only easy, it's incentivized and encouraged. So men are going to want to wait, and while before they bend the knee, so to speak. And while they're waiting, it's like, wow, I gotta wait SEXXX for this time. That's going to be very discouraging. So it's up to them to come up with ways around this. Now, the Catholic Church is good. The Catholic Church is nimble, but the Catholic Church is a major organization that, with a very intact command structure, where at the very bottom is an altar boy and at the very top is the Pope. Black churches typically consist of a brother that used to be a deacon that says, oh, okay, now that the pastor died, the people voted and he stepped up. But there's no one above him. So there's no one, there's only like the small congregation beneath him. Meaning that problems like this, there is no global oversight. There isn't a single person like the Pope that says, something, there is a problem. Our message seems to be putting men off. So we need to and he could say this to all the members of the church, of this particular denomination. He could say, we need to get more men in the church. What are your suggestions? But only individual pastors will come across these concerns. So there you have that. It's a problem, and there doesn't seem to be a solution in sight. Let's go to the next video. Hit the like button. All right, Kevin Murray says she's cute, but she's lying. Yeah, I mean, they're always going to lie, because what Black women have come to realize is that PR, they've realized the power of PR. If they can get a group of people to believe a lie, then they could benefit from that lie. And that's true for all of society. Like, if society can convince people, okay, for example, I've been looking at the market lately, and I'm not going to say which stocks and which companies are doing this, but they're pretty wealthy companies. They're convincing people to pay for stock values. The individual stock price is way above valuation. I'm like, wait a minute, why are people doing this? And it's like, because they were able to convince the people that they're working on this new technology that's going to make them rich. That's the power of a lie. And these people never really tested the technology. It's all kind of weird, but there is power in illusions. And yes, many Black women have tapped into that power. Hit the like button. And yes, that is the lie, that women, particularly Black women, are not taught to wait, sit, and serve. The image that Black women portray of themselves is far different than the image and the lived experience of the Black man and anybody who deal with them. I think that there was a time when they were able to paint their own image, because greater society really didn't know much about them, but what they're told. Kind of like we don't know much about Native Americans, modern Native Americans, but what we're told. So if a Native American spokesperson was to say that we still get together every third Sunday and sit in a teepee and smoke a peace pipe, we would believe it, because we really don't know much about them. I rarely see them. However, the image that they're deliberately trying to paint for themselves, which is these pious ladies in waiting, is a direct contradiction to what everybody see in public. And that is this overweight being with fake hair, fake lashes, and fake nails, being loud and belligerent for no reason, and dressed inappropriately each and every single place that they go. That is the actual image and reputation, which conflicts with the one that they're trying to paint for themselves. So it's a lie. And unfortunately for them, it's a lie that everybody now realizes. Hit the like button. Okay, I think that this is more of the same. So actually, I'm not going to play this, because this looks like more of the same. Let me see. There was another one I did before I got into TikTok. There was another one I seen before I got into TikTok. Oh, let's see what she has to say on it. I didn't actually hear this one before, but she always has something good, and she has like a Ayala Zanvant calming voice. So I'll listen to what she got to say. All right, give me a moment, people. I'm going to play this, then we'll get to the TikTok portion.
Icebreaker games with random men. What am I doing? This isn't even worth it. What is this all for?
So you're out there in the cold, wiping snow off of your car just to maybe meet a man. You paid $40 for speed dating games, and you already sound exhausted before you
Okay,
even get
she's
there.
mistaken. The woman isn't wiping the snow to pay $40 to meet men, at least not for anything serious. She can meet men anytime, any place where she goes. She's paying the $40 so she can have a story to tell. So she can have something interesting to tell her friends in real life and her friends on TikTok. She's actually going there to reject each and every single one of the men that make their attempt. And then she could go and tell her friends why she rejected them. That's the real reason why she's going to the speed dating event, not to actually find a mate. I mean, and it's evidenced by the fact that she did a TikTok. Before she even went to the event, she's telling a story about the event. She's just looking for a story to tell, something to talk about.
Jokes.
Where are the real men at? I'm sick of it.
Y'all, there's a speed dating thing here tomorrow night for Christians. Should I go?
That what am I doing? Moment.
Yes, women do want connections. However, they want connections with other women.
Got turned into something shameful. So now we have women searching for love while pretending that they don't care if they ever find
day until he died, but I was a failure of a daughter.
this right here. That's not empowerment. That's pain dressed up as power. And a lot of men can see that energy coming from miles away. When you use men for validation, the good ones don't feel needed. They feel used. That's part of why they're walking away.
Next time you're dating again, wait on God's blessing. Wait on God.
Okay. When women talk like this, it's really so they can feel like whatever decision that they make, which is typically a foolish one, was ordained somehow.
To give you away to that man. Of course, you're going to still be in a relationship with God, but it's different when it's a giveaway single you to a man.
They're focused on Christ for years. They have been doing the things that people have been telling them to do for years, yet they're still single, have no candidates, have nobody looking in their direction. Let me tell you something. The church does not teach Christian women how to date. I think a large percentage of the women of God that actually do desire marriage could be married right now if they actually knew the practical steps according to dating. People are saying that it's not the church's job to teach us, but it is, because if we're not learning this from the body of Christ, we're going to learn it from the world. Tell us that we need to be single and wait and wait and wait and wait. It doesn't make sense.
You hear the contradiction? Wait on God, be patient, focus on Christ. But people don't always teach how to connect, how to communicate, how to understand masculine peace. A lot of women confuse waiting on God with doing nothing. Faith without.
She has a good point there. But once again, she's falling into this myth of the, decent waiting woman. Listen, I want y'all to actually read Malcolm X as I did, because there's a lot of jewels in there that, especially about his childhood, that was left out of the movie. In the movie, he just kind of went from, a little boy to Harlem Red, but I understand that. he talked about, so in the movie you've seen the scene where he called, Sister Betty, played by Angela Davis, played by the beautiful Angela Davis, and he just kind of like ambushed her with the "Will you marry me" type deal. And she quickly said yes. Now, in the book, he talks about why he did it that way. And when you read it, you'll see that he had a very red-pilled view of not only women, but women within the Muslim church. He was like, from their point of view, he was 6'2", handsome, well-spoken, child of Allah. And he was also single. And it wasn't that he was against being with, a woman or anything like that. However, he understood that the way they were, especially in the church and closed environment like that, they all wanted to be the one that he hit on. And they wanted to, and I'm paraphrasing, I got to read it for yourself. And they're paraphrasing, or excuse me, I'm paraphrasing, but basically they just wanted to tell the other women that Malcolm Little or Malcolm X, he shot his shot. Once again, I'm paraphrasing. So he had to think of a way around that. So he never really went at Betty directly. And, it came down to, it's like, okay, I'm not going to make a big production of me asking for your hand in marriage. I'm not. I'm going to spend time with you. Basically, I'm not going to give you something to brag about to the other church broads. Because that is what so many women in, that particular church setting, but it's not really different in Protestant churches either, or Baptist churches either. It's not. They're just looking to be hit on so they can shoot the dude down and they can aggrandize themselves. They can move up the rankings to other women. That's how closed settings full of single women work. That's why closed settings full of single women are not good places to meet women. All right, it says women shoot themselves in the foot with the playing hard to get game. Let's see. While having a biological clock. Since us as men dislike wasting time, we hate jumping through hoops. Yeah, it is. And once again, this is not the church's way to, the church isn't adapting to modern times. This whole, make him wait, type thing, things like this work when, back in the day when people married in their preteens or teens. When making him wait meant, the matter of a few months or something like that. And you live in a rural community where, there really isn't any distractions for him or you. Try making somebody wait in New York City. It's like, okay, he's going to see another woman, in a very short period of time. And by that, I mean seconds. Like if he meets you in a bodega, he walks out the bodega and there's another woman who looks just like, and even then it doesn't account for the internet. So, if you are like one of these top dudes that are successful, on the internet, then so the whole premise has not adjusted for modern times. It hasn't. Okay. For a woman to be single and childless at 36, back in the day when this whole make them wait law was created thousands of years ago, they didn't have, they didn't have like 36-year-old single bachelorettes back in the day. And because women were not economically self-sustaining, there was a separate motivation. They wouldn't make them wait indefinitely. Somebody said his name was Detroit Red. You're right. I was thinking of Harlem Red. Harlem Red was Red Fox, the person we kind of know as Red Fox. All right. They were in a gang together. Wasn't in the movie, but it was in the books. New York City has the worst dating scene. I never stepped foot in there. Yeah. Metropolitan cities are going to have, large congested cities are going to have terrible dating scenes. And that is because the more people are going to get choice paralysis, and it's going to be very difficult to date. I mean, there's a mathematic reason behind that, which I will explain in a future video for those of you who like math. But trust me, that's just how it is.
Wisdom turns into frustration because church most of the time teaches purity, not partnership. It tells women why to wait, but not always how to build. So they wait years praying for a man who doesn't even know they exist, while men are learning how to protect their peace.
I absolutely adore women. I just do. I'm not what you would call a ladies' man.
No.
I'm not a real big skirt chaser.
A small-time skirt chaser?
There is a secret they tell you after the show.
That's wisdom in motion. You know why he says, just tell her she looks nice and move on? Because men are tired of being misread. Even a compliment can get twisted these days. That's why they keep it brief, keep it safe. Peace over pressure.
What's the secret?
It's close. She's close, but the real reason why men do that is because there's an understanding that women get a certain thrill from rejection, especially men Morgan Freeman's age. They understand that women, perhaps Black women more so, get a certain thrill from rejecting a man. Remember what K. Michelle said? Ain't nothing like shooting down a poppin' ninja. Remember that. And then she said something about taking her wig off and, resting for a week or some crap like that, There is a satisfaction that they get from turning down a dude. So, for a dude who wants to compliment a beautiful woman, but not give her the satisfaction of turning him down, that is the way to do that. And that desire is not limited to church. You see, when a woman shoots you down on the streets, there really isn't, she gets the internal satisfaction of doing so. And if her friends are there, then she can say to her friends that this happened and they've seen it happen. However, in a church setting, they know exactly who you are. Like, ooh, you shot down that doctor? Like, yeah, I shot down that doctor. And then you get to, poke your tits out and, because you're better for whatever satisfaction they get, it intensifies when it is done in a gossip setting where the women know who you shot down, everything about him. And yeah, they're looking to you for details on that. So that is a real thing.
Secret.
Just don't do it. Don't, you meet a lady, you express to her how wonderful she looks or how you respond to the way she looks or whatever it is, and then go on about the business.
Man.
Oh, Danica Marie. All right. So it says, that's so immature. Who's checking women when they do this? Well, typically the church would check women, not when they do this, but what the church was able to do and what many non-Protestant churches are continuing to do is creating a social hierarchy that pits women who are married and children and pillar of the community above all others. Now, because the Black church have failed to do that, the woman at the top of the social hierarchy is the one that could shoot down the most eligible person. That is the woman at the top of the church hierarchy. But no, if you are, let's just say Roman Catholic or something like that, and you are 50-year-old and single, you are at the bottom of the female social hierarchy. You just are.
Are now at a point to where they're walking away and they don't mind being alone. A lot of us have messed it up.
And that's the shift. They used to chase love. Now they protect their solitude. Half of the single men in America, according to Pew Research, are not even looking for a relationship. That's almost 24 million men who say, I'm good. Men didn't disappear. They just stopped auditioning.
Wait, she said that's over how many?
That's the shift. They used to chase love. Now they protect their solitude. Half of the single men in America, according to Pew Research, are not even looking for a relationship. That's almost 24 million men who say, I'm good.
Did you say 204? Or 24? Let's see, we have about 400 million people, half of whom are men, half of whom, half of whom are male, a fourth of whom are men. So that's 100 million men, half of whom are single, and half of those, yeah, that's right, about 24 million. She's right.
Men didn't disappear. They just stopped auditioning for women who can't see their value. They realized peace of...
Oh, she killed it with that. She killed it with the calming, Ayala Van Zandt voice. She just killed it with that. I'm going to hear that again. And her lips is glossy. They glossy. They glossy.
Men who say, I'm good. Men didn't disappear. They just stopped auditioning for women who can't see their value.
They just stopped auditioning for women who can't see their value. Now, there's this porn thing that I used to watch, and, I'm embarrassed to say I actually thought it was real and not scripted. And that was Backroom Casting Couch. Press 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. And Backroom Casting Couch consisted of a guy, a middle-aged guy, a white guy who doesn't show his face, and a young woman who comes, a young woman who arrives thinking that she is going to be the next corn star. So he auditions her rigorously, and she don't get the role. Now, let's just say now we know that that's scripted. By now, we all know that that's scripted. But let's just say, for instance, it wasn't scripted. And you had this guy, and you had a number of guys. You had a number of guys who were just out there fake auditioning women. They get the satisfaction of watching them try to become corn stars. They get money. They get satisfaction from watching them try to become corn stars. Eventually, the women are going to catch on. And what men have caught on to is that women are getting satisfaction of watching men try to start relationships with them. They're not actually looking for relationships. They're looking for the satisfaction of watching men try to get into relationships. That's what they're looking for. And men like a woman who, refuse to go on Backroom Casting Couch. It's like, listen, I now realize that this is not a proper path to get to the destination that I am seeking. So it's not that men aren't trying anymore. And it's not that men are going MGTOW in mass or SYSBM in mass or what have you. It's not that they're doing that. But what they're doing is they are not going to places where men are looking for relationships because all they find are women who are looking to get off on watching men try. Like the first woman who was talking about, I'm shoveling in the snow so I can go to this speed dating event so I can find a man. No, no, no. You're going to the speed dating event so you can watch these guys try. That's the real reason that you're going there. And men are aware of that. Hit the like button, people.
Peace of mind is worth more.
All right, Kenny Peoples got something to say. Listen, you're late, sir. Church always been keeping American black women single. That's not the message of this. Don't assume that I have predictable responses to, common philosophical questions. Watch the beginning. I always have a unique take on stuff. That's why you come here. That's why you hit the like button.
More than a type.
If you're looking for a video on how the church is keeping them single, this is not this. This is not that. This is asking a question and taking a deep dive into the answer. As I said in the beginning, the short answer is no, it's not. And now we're going to find out what really is.
And loyalty means nothing if it comes with attitude.
The number one reason that men have given up on women and on love between men and women is getting larger and larger. With women, there's the movement of, I don't need no man. And then with men, you have that movement of when women are a liability.
She's right. The gap is growing. One side screams, I don't need a man. The other whispers, women are a liability. You can't build a bridge with people who are busy proving that they don't need to cross it. Most men aren't asking for luxury. They're asking.
Dang, that is a perfect analogy. Wonder if I should put her on my crush list. I don't know if she's married or not. I think she is. All right, never mind. But anyway, that is a perfect analogy. Why build a bridge for people who are conditioned to not cross it? Are trying to prove that they don't need a bridge. This goes into the black women who are saying, y'all haven't built nothing. That's just shaming tactics. Once again, their goal is to get you to continue to try. They get off on you trying. Point blank period. They don't care if you built anything.
For peace, appreciation.
Oh, yeah. Somebody said this young lady can talk her way out of anything. Yeah. Do you think she ever got a ticket in her life? I mean, she got parking tickets. Like where she wasn't there to talk her way out of it. And she got like camera tickets. But do you think an officer actually heard the voice and said and just wrote the ticket anyway? Like, yes, officer, I understand that I was going past the speed limit. You see, the reason why is because I was in such a hurry that I lost track of what my speedometer was saying as I tried to get to my destination. It is very important that I make this meeting in time. So, officer, if you could, either expedite the ticket or, withdraw from doing it altogether, I would greatly appreciate that. And then the officer not only not write her a ticket, he actually uses his sirens to get her to her destination faster. She has that voice.
And a soft place to land. And yet those simple things sound impossible because everyone is competing instead of connecting.
So what are men asking for? They're asking for a little appreciation. They're asking to be loved for who they are, not what they can provide. They want to be seen. Now, is this unrealistic? Getting married. If they have resources and the woman decides she doesn't want to be married to him anymore, she could take half, even if she hasn't contributed to any of it. They don't feel it's worth the risk. Ladies, if you were a man today, would you date women today?
See, she understands. A man can build a life, pour everything into a marriage, and lose half of it in one courtroom afternoon. It's not bitterness.
Until the church excommunicate women who do that, Men are not going to go in mass. I want y'all to imagine a man, a good church man, a good church man. You know, he meets his wife in church and he marries this woman. They have kids together. And then one day out of nowhere, she decides to cash in her marriage. So she divorces him and she takes half his stuff and splits the time with the kids and make him pay child support. And then next day she goes to the same church. The church that's not condemning her, not telling her what she did is wrong. He's just saying, "Hey, how you doing, Sister Keisha? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the church, Sister Keisha. I'm so sorry that you're going through that divorce. I'm so sorry that you had to divorce this man that never cheated on beat on you. I'm sorry that this didn't work out. And I know that I was the one that married you. And I was there when you swore to stick together forever, whether times are good or bad and you're happy or sad, sickness and health, death do us part. I know that you stood right in front of me and right in front of this very congregation and lied, sister. You lied to me. You lied to the Lord. You lied to the pulpit. You lied to the choir. You lied to the flower girls. You lied to the ring bearer. You lied to the maid of honor. You lied to the groomsmen. You lied to the best man. You lied to the sisters of the church. Right here in the house of the Lord, you lied. But welcome back. Welcome back. Until churches start doing that, men are not going to go. But they're going to continue to go and sit in front of the dude that just, man.
It's risk management. When men say it's not worth it, they're not exaggerating. They're protecting themselves. That's why you see fewer proposals, fewer commitments. It's not that men hate love. They just stop volunteering for heartbreaks on repeat. They'd rather be single than be blamed for everything while giving everything. So, when women ask, where are the men? Here's the truth. They didn't vanish. They evolved. They stopped chasing validation and started valuing peace.
Dang, she
Half
be
of them
killing it
aren't
with the voice and the glossy lips. She just be killing it.
looking because they've realized solitude hurts less than being unappreciated. Men need love too. They just got tired of begging for it. Because when a man has to fight for respect in his own relationship, he'll eventually stop fighting and start walking away. That's the danger of waiting too long to understand them. Because while you're still filtering out average guys, those same men are learning peace feels better than your approval. By the time you realize what you lost, he's grown silent and distant. So, no, needing a man doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. But refusing to understand what men need, that's what's keeping so many women single. The truth is simple. Men don't ask for much. They just ask for it in a world that stopped listening. If you still believe you don't need a man, look around. Half the men already believed you, and they've moved on. She said it all. And that's a tough question. But here's a tougher one. If roles were reversed, would women date women today? Would they handle the tone, the expectation, the entitlements? Because sometimes we ask men to accept things that we ourselves wouldn't even be able to handle if they acted just like us. Men aren't asking for perfection. They're asking for peace. Because effort gets labeled as control and leadership gets mistaken as arrogance. So what do men do? They stop chasing what drains them. They stop proving their worth to people who can't even see it. And slowly, they step back. Not because they don't care, but because they're tired of caring alone. You see, in 2025, this is what's really happening. Men haven't given up on love. They've just realized that love without respect feels like self-sabotage. So they're not checking out of relationships. They're checking in with themselves.
I'm a little frustrated with God. I am now 24, very much a late bloomer.
Jesus.
I've never experienced a relationship.
Did she say she's 24? Holy crap. She looks like her numbers are reversed. Like her age is reversed. Like she's 42. Now, the one on the right looks 24, and I know she's not because she's so wise. I could picture her letting Yoda hit it. Like I could picture her. No, I don't want to imagine that. But nevertheless, I would assume that whoever she's with is also wise.
Definitely have had the desires to. And I think as I've gotten older, as I've gotten more spiritually mature, there are 3 things that I have been wanting and looking for. Number 1, to be chosen. And when I say to be chosen, I mean romantically chosen. I've been the girl who, a guy will say he likes me, but because I'm not doing this, that, and the third, he go date my friend. I've been the girl who's out.
What is this, that, and the third? I hate it when they say, oh, because I'm not doing this, that, and the third. What is that? Is this, that, and the third? Cooking, cleaning, and working out? Because I'm willing to bet that it is. See, they say this, that, and the third to like leave it open to something, and hoping that you think it's something nasty. Oh, because you're not willing to work a corner for him, he goes on to your friend or something like that. Like, no. I think that this, that, and the third is working out, cooking, and cleaning. I won't even talk about the hair yet. Just saying.
With the girls, and all of us look good, but I somehow am not the girl that's getting the.
All of us look good. So her definition. So she thinks she looks good. She thinks that she looks good, and if men are not interested in her for physical reasons, it's something wrong with the men. See, this is the illusion and delusion that they try to portray. And this is what most church chicks look like. You see, she understands that it's harder to find a man on the street because, however, if she can find a man, and they go everywhere with this philosophy, they try to sneak in the back door, no pun intended. They try to sneak in the back door by getting men based on mutual interests as opposed to physical attraction. Because let's face it, if you don't meet a man under mutual interests, then all that's left is physical attractive. He's going to approach the most attractive woman he sees. Or in the case of Southern dudes, what appears to be the lowest hanging fruit or the lightest skinned one. Never, and maybe she's not in the South. But nevertheless, that is going to be an obstacle. A way around the physical attraction rule is to meet a man under mutual interests and circumstances. This is how you find these, ungodly pairings of Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. That's how you find such things. You got to meet them in Harvard, in the same law school, at the same law firm, because y'all have mutual interests in law and politics. That is a shortcut, and it goes for men and women too. When you see these guys who are, with women who are ridiculously prettier than he is handsome, but they met under idyllic circumstances, that's how. They're using church to be an idyllic circumstance.
The looks, but then I get the sidebar, side wing, like sidekick, petty to be chosen, to be seen, not just for my body, because we know body is tea, not just for my beauty, but.
Why does she shake her head to that? See, she's of the same ilk of Shay Sade that just don't want to. Address the elephant in the woman.
I'm not the girl that's getting the, the looks, but then I get the, the sidebar, side wing, like sidekick, pity conversation. To be chosen, to be seen, not just for my body, because we know body is not just for my beauty,
Okay.
but for me.
I misunderstood her body language. I misunderstood the woman in the brown's body language. I thought that she was nodding her head in agreement, but really she was maintaining a neutral expression while looking slightly to the side. So the mask slipped a little bit. When she look at her eyes when she say not just for my body. Look at how she maintains a neutral, mouth face expression, and she keeps her head still. However, watch what her eyes do. Watch this.
To be seen, not just for my body, because we know body is tea. Not
y'all see that? Did y'all see that? It's subtle. Did y'all see that? See, she maintains her cool, calm, and demeanor, but really, when she looked to the side, she was thinking like, did this bitch say that men are looking for her body? Did this fat bitch just say that? Okay, y'all seen it, right? You seen it, Chasing Grace. You seen it. I'm not sure. Y'all seen it. I seen it. I seen it.
Just for my beauty, but
this bitch just said for her beauty.
For me, the bubbly, loving, nurturing person, and then 3, to be loved. And it's just like, when is it going to be my turn?
What I noticed lately is that a lot of men rather stay single because they're tired of giving their everything and ending up with nothing. Do you guys agree with that?
It's been your girlfriend Renee here. I'll see you guys in my next video.
Look at this. Look at this. Come on, Shay Sade. Come on, whoever this woman is. Shout yourself out. Address the elephant in the woman. Who want to go to this church? Who want to go to this church? If you clip this scene and you put it in an AI image generator, a bunch of cookie jars is going to come up. It's not going to recognize these as people. It's going to think that this is a shelf full of cookie jars. Mammy cookie jars. I don't know if y'all ever seen a mammy cookie jar. I've seen it in Brazil, but I used to see them a lot when I was a kid, and nobody had problems with it back then. You go into a white person house and and you go to a black person house and you'll see a mammy shaped cookie jar where you take the head off and you dig in and there's cookies inside. I'm pretty sure there's a whole generation of white kids that grew up on that with the understanding that cookies come out of a black woman's head. So, yeah, who want to go to a church full of no crap like that? You don't. Maybe looking like the audience at a Tyler Perry play. Man, that's just ridiculous. All right, so let's move on to the TikTok of the day. By the way, Black women are doing something that I want y'all to stay keen to. And that is honeypotting themselves. When they put a message on, they select the most attractive one to portray the message to give a false image of what's actually going on. For example, right? For example, and I know that they do this to you too. I think I had this happen to me twice, maybe. I don't buy kids alcohol. I don't. And I tell them to their face, "Nigga, fuck you. I ain't buying you shit." So that's that. All right. So walking along one day, and there was this white girl, very attractive. She hit all the markers of what makes a white woman attractive, and that is blue eyes, blonde hair, and slim waist and pretty face. So she had all that going on for her. And she had to have been like maybe 18 or so, right? Asking me to buy her alcohol. Now I look, and it was about three guys like hanging out on the side of the 7-Eleven, right? Um, um, Multiracial, right? So I'm assuming one of the guys was her boyfriend, maybe the black one, and the white guys were her relatives or just her friends, or maybe one of the white guys was her boyfriend and the black ones were just friends or what have you. But there's a group of guys there. Now they were all together, obviously, but they sent her to do the asking. And that is because people are more complacent when dealing with attractive women or girls, whatever she was. I don't know what her age was. People are more likely to say yes to her than they are to the dudes that was hanging out on the side. They just are. That is what these women are doing. They put their most attractive foot forward because what they're trying to do is create a narrative that church is the place to go to find cooperative black women that look like the one on the screen. But that is not the reality. That is not the reality. That's just who they chose as a spokesperson. She is just who they chose as a spokesperson. Hit the like button. Now let's see what this spokesperson, I haven't seen the TikTok reel yet. Let's see what this spokesperson has to say.
I was afraid to make this video because I know it's going to be some backlash.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm starting to believe that the church is keeping black women single on purpose.
Black women are keeping black women single.
I am starting to believe that the black church is keeping black women single.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, I want to believe in my heart of hearts that when churches have Women's Day, have women's conferences, when you go to these women empowerment, conferences, and they are allowing people to be vulnerable and transparent, and they are sharing how they healed from certain things and how God's word helped them to heal, which is true. I'm trying to figure out why we are almost intentionally leaving out that God's word also says that a man is a woman's covering.
Okay. I heard one of the people say this before. Listen, it's not the church that is making you like that. It's not because the church have a women's empowerment group. It's because y'all want to go to women's empowerment groups. Y'all actually want to go to a place with a bunch of broads saying that, so y'all could feel powerful. That's the problem. The church is just giving you what you want. Notice how it was the white women saying, I'm going to this Christian singles event. Notice how it's the white women saying that? Why do the black church not have Christian singles events? We're going to get into that. But they have these black women empowerment events, right? Ever notice that? And once again, this is not something that the church is just, it's supply and demand. I used to think that, there's a liquor store on every corner in the black neighborhood because, they're trying to they're trying to make us into drunks. But then I realized it's like, no, it's supply and demand. There's a demand here. They're demanding more liquor stores. And for whatever reason, Black people like to stand outside of them. But yeah, I'm not even going to get into that. The point is that they are giving the congregation what it wants. Now, why do they want that? Why do they want empowerment over relationship? That's something that needs to be explored. But it's not going to get properly explored if they blame it on the church.
And a husband is part of, or should be part of, an honorable, godly life. None of that is ever mentioned in a lot of these spaces. There are more women in the church than men. I don't have a problem with women being in leadership because that's needed today. But when I'm watching women that are in positions of power and in positions of leadership in the church, but I'm not hearing you talk about how important the family structure is and how important a covering is and how a woman is created to be a helpmeet and a neck, and the man is supposed. When I don't hear those things talked about almost intentionally, is that because I want these women single? Am I the only one that is starting to feel this way? I'm almost afraid.
Okay. She actually touched on something that I didn't consider. And that is, women are now becoming in, not only in the church itself, but they have become authority figures in the church. You know, they have become decision makers, you know, on boards and stuff like that. That is an extreme problem. And it's probably to the point now to where the pastor himself is just a figurehead. Which means that the church is still a reflection of the will of the modern women. But when you ask, is a church keeping women single? If older women are the decision makers in the church, then yes, older women in the Black community keep younger women single. And they are willing to use the power of the church to do so. Now, this is still Black women keeping Black women single, because these are Black women that are in the church keeping other Black women single. But y'all see where this is going.
To make this video because I know it's going to be some backlash.
Oh, okay.
But
So I saw a video of a woman and she said that the church is keeping Black women single. And I just want to put it in my 3 cents because I watched the entirety of the video and I actually agree with what she's saying in the video. I just don't agree with her blaming the church.
Okay. Maybe she's going to say the same thing I'm saying, but what a waste of braces. Okay.
The church is not trying to keep Black women single. Society is. And what's happening is too much of the world is being allowed in the church. It's not the church, it's the world. But the world is currently dominating the church.
Okay.
And when I say that, what I mean is that the devil is running rampant, and we are living in a time where so many things are being normalized that the structure of the church is being weakened to allow spiritual warfare. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I'll say it because I said it before and I'll say it again. The Jezebel spirit is running rampant in this generation. I am 24 years old. The amount of women that no longer want to get married, no longer want to have children, want to be the head of household, don't want to submit to anyone, is the numbers are astronomical.
Yes, it is.
And the proof is even in that woman's comments.
Okay, so she has a point there. But once again, that is not the church doing that. That's the church understanding that women don't want these things, even the ones that say they do. So we are going to act accordingly. Here's your women's empowerment thing.
Because we have women creating this ideology of decentering men when the center should be God to begin with. And if you omit the Black man from the Black household, the Black community dies. Like, let's call a spade a spade. Something that I learned, I was probably like 13 years old. I was at this conference. Why I was there, I don't know. Shout out to my grandma. And this woman, she said something and it stuck with me. She said, if you want to know if something is wrong, ask yourself if everyone was to do it, would humanity still be able to go on? So I'm gonna ask you a question. If every black woman decided that a black man wasn't needed, that children were not needed, that family were not needed, what would happen? Now, this is not for me to say that everyone has to be married.
She's asking that question, and she's going into this not all thing I hate that people do. But she's asking the question as if it's a hypothetical. What would happen if women stop or told themselves that they don't need men and they don't value family, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Well, it is happening. It is happening. It's kind of like somebody said, what would happen if Donald Trump was president? Like if they said that right now. Like, what are you talking about? We already live in that situation. Like that's a very odd thing to say.
Everyone has to have children. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that the numbers, the way that it's going, it's like, okay, if you have a call to abstinence over your life, cool. Celibacy, whatever the case may be, if you're meant to be alone, there's nothing wrong with that. But the same women who don't want a man in the house wants a man in their bed. So I saw a video.
Okay. She lost me with that, but yeah, let's move on.
I'm 27. I'm 28. Jesus coming back.
Holy crap. Okay, let's see where this is going.
We need to stop playing. I'm telling you, we playing too much. Why you dress like a... Because I got to stay safe. You dress like an older lady, though. I know, I love it. You're not old. Keep me near the cross. No, I dress different ways, though. I give a little thigh sometimes. No, you don't. No. Your hats be on the old lady.
Can we both talk about and have an honest discussion about how the black church and Christianity is keeping a lot of black women single?
No, I'm not going to have that kind of...
I didn't mean to step on any toes, but
the woman fat as hell.
The black church caters to the black woman. And the reason black church caters to the black woman is because the black woman is the provider. She has more income and education than the man. So
she don't have more income than the man.
Looking at this financially. They also have a vested interest in her never getting there. The past.
Okay. Dr. Umar is projecting right now. I'm not talking about the whole income thing they got wrong. I'm talking about what he's doing. He has a vested interest in keeping black women single. He is pandering to women. Black queens forever, snow bunnies never. Black queens forever, snow bunny never. Black queens forever, snow bunny never. Is it the black church that's pandering to black women? Oh.
There is the metaphorical husband of all the single women in the community. I'm not saying he's sleeping
like you are. You want to be the metaphorical husband to all the twisted, to the women in the twisted community that you created for yourself. This twisted hotep community that you created for yourself.
With them. I'm saying he's keeping them so distracted with Jesus that they never find a husband.
Same thing you're doing, just replace the word Jesus with hotep.
And that's the way he wants it to stay. Because if she finds a husband, she won't have as much time to be donating to the church. Wow. So the black church benefits from single motherhood. They don't want our sisters married because their pockets would go down.
Okay.
The black church caters to
that's foolishness.
I'm starting to believe that the church is keeping black women
all right, we already seen
single.
All the single church girls front and center. I know you're secretly salty at God, and I'm gonna tell you why. You were taught that if you do everything right, if you're a good woman, if you listen to your parents, if you go to church all the time and keep your legs closed, that God was gonna bless you with a husband. Now you're 32, just ended your 73rd talking stage, got all your good girl gold stars. Truth be told, your DMs are drier than the Sahara Desert. So while your friends who didn't quite do things God's way are getting engaged, married, having kids, you're sitting here looking like, yo, God, we got beef or something? What's really good? This is because we were taught that if we do the right things, automatically we would be able to earn or just simply walk into the things that we desire in life. That's not really how God works, is it? One of the things that we weren't taught is the power of our decision making and just the general way that life flows. Sometimes you get stuff when you want them, and sometimes you don't. But that doesn't change the fact that you feel bamboozled, lied to, and chronically disappointed by the experiences that you've had when it comes to your love life. So now that you're in this space, what do you do? Well, as a relational trauma therapist and coach, one of the things that I spend a lot of times doing, especially to my Christian clients, is literally reintroducing them to God, as well as updating their theology so that way they have a proper understanding of biblical principles and guidelines. For example, I often have to help them understand that we do not live the lifestyle that we live in order to get blessing. I know that that's controversial, but it's true. We live our lives as unto God in obedience, not for exchange. Many of you have this unspoken behavioral barter system with God, and you're waiting on him to uphold his end of the deal, but he's like, I've given you everything pertaining to life and godliness, meaning you have the tools, abilities, and skills, as well as the discernment of the Holy Spirit to help you pursue the things in life that you want. Now, there's also his divine will and
Okay, she's rambling, but here, it's church babble. Anyway, Kevin Murray says, my guess is that empowerment is a feeling women want to feel as opposed to the responsibility of being in a relationship. It definitely is a feeling. The thing about power is that it's a means to an end. So you should beware of people who just want it for the sake of having it. You know, like power is always the ability to affect. Power is the ability to affect change. It's like, okay, you have the power. What change do you want? But a lot of women, they just want it. In fact, the only time they feel like they have it is when they are doing the opposite of the logical thing to do. For example, you give them the power to choose their own mate, but they don't feel like they have that power unless they're choosing a mate that their father would not choose for them. They feel empowered to do so because they're exercising their power. Let's just say that, you know, let's just call him Daryl from Coming to America. And your father say, look, I want you to marry Daryl. Now you may even like Daryl, but the truth of the matter is it wouldn't be your decision if that decision just so happens to be the same as your father's. So, and the thing about empowerment is that they only feel like they have power when it is going against what they want to, or what others want them to do. And that really is the crux of Black women's behavior and personality. They will always do what people don't want them to do. That's why they're loud. That's why they're obnoxious. That's why they slut walk. That's why they dress the way they dress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They will always do the opposite of what society wants them to do. That way they feel like they have power in doing that. Get it? Got it? Good. All right. Somebody said them DMs ain't dry. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how DMs work, especially from a female's perspective. I will say that because it's very easy for a man to go into a woman's DMs, and it's a very soft rejection, there really isn't anything that would stop a woman's DMs from going dry. Now, do I think that it's possible for a woman's DMs to go dry? Yes, but it requires a lot of both direct and indirect rejection. It means that at some point you have indirectly or directly rejected each and every single guy that the internet has provided to you as a potential mate, one way or another. Either you dated him, or either you just ignored his DMs, or either you just had like an exhausting conversation through the DM process with him. Either way, you know, men have come to the conclusion, a lot of men, a lot of men have come to the conclusion that it's not in their best interest to even take 3 seconds out and send you a message, to even like just type in WYD. They have come to the conclusion that it's not in their best interest to do so. So it can go dry, but it doesn't go dry because, you know, they have been waiting around for too long for Prince Charming or something like that. It goes dry for other reasons.
timing, right? Some things just aren't going to happen until it's time for them to happen. But more often than not, a lot of the things that you desire are slipping your grasp because of the decisions that you're making and the lack of responsibility and ownership that you're not taking over your life. God is not here to make decisions for you. He lives in you to empower you to make the decisions that are in line with his will. That being said, one of the ways that I'm helping women who feel disillusioned and bamboozled by their Christianity not bringing in the love that they want is through my 5-week program.
Bruh.
Shoot me a DM and I'll tell you more. In the meantime, grab your stuff. Let's go. All the single church girls front and center. I know you're secretly salty at God, and I'm going to tell
Okay.
you why. You were
I
taught
don't think that she's
if you do
married.
Y'all want to know why there's a lot of issues going on in the Black community? Is men versus women. Everybody's complaining about what's going on, but there's like no solutions. These Black pastors are not preaching and educating us on who we are as a people, point blank, period. They're preaching everything else but the truth of who we are, which is Hebrew Israelites.
Okay.
That is
all right. So I'm gonna move on.
Y'all
want
to know why there's a lot of.
The church is keeping Christian women single, and this is why there are so many Christian single women at the church, literally single for years.
They also have a vested interest in her.
And this one too.
You don't talk to anybody. You don't talk to men just because you're single. And they sold you this lie of, oh, it would just come. You need to stop worrying about that. Just serve the Lord. And if you get busy and you pretend like you don't want marriage, then it's going to come. We don't give this advice for anything else. If someone wants a higher paying job, no one says to be idle. They say, keep applying, position yourself in the job market, right? Until it happens. Even if you get rejected by one company, does that mean that you stop applying for the job that you want? No. You keep applying until it happens. You don't talk to anybody. You don't talk to men just because you're single. And they sold you this lie of, oh, it would just come. You need to stop worrying about that.
Once again, if you're a Black church woman, because you don't, it's not you that talks, it's the guys that talk. The guys are approaching you. You have to deliberately reject the guy. And no one, the church isn't telling you to do that. I'm going to say this 2 more times. The church isn't telling you to do that. One last time. The church is not telling you to do that. Stop blaming the church.
The church is so full of Black women and very few men. Amen. While you could go in church with 500 people and it'd be maybe 5 marriages, and those are the leadership. So what they do is they cater to single women and make them feel comfortable about their singleness. Y'all heard what I said. That's why I remember I told y'all I stopped speaking words into y'all. I stopped doing that. Why y'all think I stopped doing that? Because people get off on affirmation. They want tell me what God go, tell me who I am, tell me all this, and then fall in love with that. And that's why every message has to be your season, your harvest, your breakthrough, what God's gonna do for you, you know who you are, you going to the name, all that stuff. They got to do it because women will continue to give as long as they're affirming.
He's onto it.
But the biggest churches are the ones that affirm the best. That every service he got to give her a shout, give her that good feeling, and she gonna pay.
He killing it.
And this is the reason why the Black church
is
designed to not have marriages, because the goal is to emotionalize the females, because the females lead the house now and they pay. And that's why when you really
okay, he confused the word emotionalize, which I don't think is a word, with placate, but he still killed it. Here, let's see what he says. Church used to teach from the Bible by reading it and discussing it. Now the person in stage is just giving opinions in politics. Huh. Okay. Yep. Building funds, private jets, mansions, and movie directors. Shout out to TD Jakes. He's true.
And if you grew up in church, specifically Black church, you already know the pressure that the church puts on single women.
Bitch! Shut the fuck up. Y'all hear this bitch? The church put pressure on single women. What church you go to? Is it in Zamunda? Is it in Wakanda? Because it damn sure is not in the US. Shut the fuck up. Everybody understands, just like the last video, that the church placates to single women. Everybody else is saying that, oh, the church is keeping them single on purpose. And now you're saying that they're pressuring you to not be single. Shut the fuck up. See, this is the type of lies I'm talking about. Bitches just be lying chronically. Once again, this is all to create a narrative. Of course, they're trying to attract men to the church. They're trying to say, hey, man, if you want to go to a place where women are being pressured to suck your dick, then come to church. That's what they're doing. Why? So they can build up the number of niggas they reject. Jesus fucking Christ, this is annoying.
You could just have finished school. You could have been at the Olympics in Paris. You got your PhD. You probably got a new car. You started a business. When you go to church and the elders see you, or the deaconess see you, or even sometimes the pastor, the first lady, what's the first thing they ask you? Now, when you gonna get married? And
bullshit. How come everybody else is saying that the church have women empowerment event? And I'm pretty sure that the PhD Olympic bitches, are guest speakers, are keynote speakers at these women empowerment things. Shut the fuck up. They really think that they could lie to GameChanger
and start having babies. Or you know who we should hook her up with? Pastor such and such.
The black church never hooks people up ever. Black people never hook people up ever. Name the black person y'all know who's married and said we met through mutual friends. Black people and black churches never hook people up ever. We're assholes like that. We just are. I don't know why it is. We just and we think it's perfectly natural. That shit is weird in other communities. We think that it is perfectly natural to not hook each other up. No, they don't hook up in a project. No, hook up, like I'm talking about, like where you introduce two people together. Listen, the movie Waiting to Exhale, and we're going to focus on two characters, Angela Bassett and Whitney Houston. Angela Bassett and Whitney Houston have been friends for years. Years. And Angela Bassett was married to her husband for 11 years and still did not hook Whitney Houston up. She didn't hook Whitney Houston up with, her husband's brothers. She didn't hook Whitney Houston up with her husband's fraternity brothers. She didn't hook Whitney Houston up with her husband's college roommate. Not her husband's clients, her husband's business partners, her husband's, basketball teammates, her husband's basketball opponents. Didn't hook her up with anybody for years. Whitney Houston is out at events looking for other people's husbands to fuck while she's just living it up, being perfect wife and mother. She's just watching her friend's eggs dry up. They do that shit all the time. That's just how black people are. We do not hook each other up. On one hand, a man's brother, his blood brother, could be single and have been single for a long time. And then he meets another single, because he's married, and he meets another single woman. He don't say, black people never say, you know something, let me introduce you to my brother. They never say that. They never do that. So I know that the black church never try to hook black women up, ever. This bitch is lying.
son, we should hook them up. And then y'all
Said no black people ever.
get mad when women come on here and they're like, I gotta find a man by this age. I gotta get married. I gotta start having the babies. When that's what
Said no black woman ever. This woman is just full of lies. I'm about to go to the next one.
people have programmed into their mind since young, and still programming into these young girls' mind that has to be their focus. You have to get that man. You have to have those kids.
No.
So a lot of us, myself included, has to deprogram all of those thoughts that people been yapping in your ear for years and realize that.
So basically, she's trying to program women and girls by calling it deprogramming, because she understands that black women and girls are rebellious by nature. So she's going to say, oh no, you've been programmed to be in relationships. Since when? Who in the hell is programming black women to be in motherfucking relationships? Nobody. So she's going to lie and say that you've been programmed by the church to be in relationships, and you have to deprogram yourself, when actually you're just programming them not to be in relationships. You're part of the fucking problem, you ugly fucking waste of braces, no hair having bitch. What a fucking waste of dark rim glasses, you nasty bitch, you 3-neck having bitch, you Fiona from Shrek looking bitch, you Tar Snowman looking bitch. Fuck you.
If you want to know what a man thinks, ask a man. Today's question is, does the church help keep women single?
Church does keep women single because the church should be at the forefront of getting men and women together, getting men and women married, and they're not doing that work, and they need to do it. The church has access.
Notice how what he's saying is the exact opposite of what the last fucking nasty bitch was saying. No, I mean, notice how what everybody is saying, everybody's talking about how the church don't get people together, and she's saying that the church is over pressuring people. It's a fucking lying ass bitch. Can't stand them.
There's two godly men and godly women. In other words, men go to church because they want to know more about God. Women go to church for that same reason. The church has these people. It should be bringing them together. It should be a big function of the church, and it's not happening. There are more and more churches full of single women. Churches are driving men away by doing things that are feminine centered, very long musical worship services, lots and lots of long prayer. That
it is true. They do be singing about Blizz Blaz and Ham, and I'm just like waiting to sit down, and then I just be like embarrassed, like, God damn, I gotta take a seat. Am I old? Like, how the fuck is all these old motherfuckers standing up so long? What the fuck? Is this a concert? What the hell is this? This brother is wise. He got a gray beard. He's wise. He's wise. He's like a Chinaman with a long pinky fingernail. They wise too. He's wise.
Lasts a half hour, 45 minutes to a man that's agonizing. Okay, it is, because men are logical. Men come to learn. Men want to hear teaching or participate in teaching. Churches are moving away from that. They have big, elaborate bands, and they have massive choirs. All of that appeals to
women. A lot of that appeals to women.
Yeah.
The moving, the clapping your hands.
I didn't even think about that.
Masculine men can only take so much of it.
Also, women are encouraged to trust their pastor over their husbands, or trust their pastor over the men in their life, because he's the pastor.
They don't have no damn men in their life.
In our minds as somebody who knows more.
Right. And
about everything.
Exactly. And that's a problem, because that's supposed to be a place occupied by the woman's husband. Whatever this guy is, whatever the husband's background is, whether he's schlubby or dirty or country or whatever he might be, he's the head of his household. He is the leader of the home. And church tells you, no, the pastor is the leader of all of y'all. If a man is to be believed, if you have to choose between the husband and the pastor wins. That destroys the trust in the home.
They see him as God, but he is not God.
No, he is not God.
What about the pastors who say to the women, Jesus is your husband, the single women. Jesus is your husband. That's what you need to worry.
Okay. This is 5 minutes, so I'm not gonna watch the whole thing, but yeah, this brother is killing it. I was reading some of the comments. It says church is not a matchmaking business. It's just true. Put God first. Everything else will fall into place. That is not true. That is not true. I want this person, this Pep 860. I want this person to go to Target and buy a puzzle. I want you to buy a puzzle with 500 or 1,000 pieces. I want you to shake that puzzle box. And I want you to put God first when you are shaking that puzzle box. Then I want you to open the box and throw it on the table and throw the content on the table. And then I want you to tell me if that puzzle falls together, if all the pieces fall into place. So if that don't work for puzzles, why would it work for relationships? By your logic, if you put God first when you open the box and throw the puzzle in and just throw the puzzle down, all the pieces go into place just naturally. You don't have to do anything. You're stupid. Stupid is you. I can't stand married women telling me not to worry about finding a husband. Yeah, because you can't stand stupid people either. Small church and just about everyone is married. Okay. That's because the single people stopped going to that small church. That doesn't mean that it's that's a common thing. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of empty seat at that small church. And really, that small church consists of just a single family, a pastor and his family, and a bunch of married couples that's in his immediate social circle. That's one of many problems I believe the government plays a bigger part in broken society than churches. Yeah, I agree. See, and this is why I'm always big up, and believe it or not, and I don't think people are aware of this. Men, and we're going to talk about the passport bros here for a second, the black ones at least. Men go to places where the church is strong. And I'm not talking about like Sasua, but I am talking about Sasua in a real sense. And that is, for one, black men always seem to find themselves in Catholic countries. You ever notice that? I don't even think that they pay attention to that. Like, yeah, so where you go? I'm going to Brazil. It's like, oh, okay, it's a Catholic country, and like, oh yeah, but then I'm going to Colombia. I'm like, oh, okay. And after that, Dominican Republic. Oh, okay. Yeah, then I'm gonna go to the Philippines. Like, yeah, what do these places have in common? There's a reason for that. And the short reason, I'm not going to get into the intricacies of it, but let's just say Catholicism breeds better women, whether they go to church or not. Once again, not going to get into details, but just trust my wisdom. Because though my beard isn't as gray as him, I know stuff. I purposely stay away from churches where single women / feminine men heavy. My church has strong masculine presence, which is very important. You're fat. I'm not going to read the rest of it, even if I like what you're saying. Okay, it says, Also experience a lot of teachings and preachings are generated towards women. Yes, yes. They tend to forget that men need the word as well. This is true. This is true. She missed the point of what they were saying. She's saying that they're saying that the church in general is catered to making women comfortable, not who needs the word more. If church is not a matchmaking business, then what is it? Adam, God did the first matchmaking with Adam and Eve. I don't know if putting like the only person on earth next to the only other person on earth matchmaking. I think that is a very not well thought out. Like, what the fuck was that? Okay, let's see. He's not a man of God. He can't pray or worship for long periods of time. What the fuck? Oh, Jesus. So if he don't worship the way that women worship, then he's not a man of God. And you're not actually praying. You're actually just listening to music. You're standing up and clapping to the beat. This guy's a moron in a tie. Okay. I went to a non-black church and literally every one person was coupled up. I was shocked. I was literally the only black woman sitting by myself. No, you wasn't. Okay. Let's just say that this is true. I don't believe it, but let's just say that this is true. This goes back to what I was saying before, and that is none of those couples is going to hook you up. Not a one, because that's just how black people are. All right, I'm going to move on. Oh, wait. My church has more married people. So with me being single, I feel uncomfortable guessing I need to find another church. I don't care about a godly man. I want a man that knows God, not at all godly men or good men. Okay, you're not a good woman.
Is church keeping women single? Let's talk about it. Now, I'll just say I've been in church most of my life off and on. I have never heard a sermon, a preacher, even a singles ministry tell you to stay single. I have never seen a church sabotage.
No, they just empower you for doing it. Okay. Say you have a son, and your son just so happens to be a bruised knuckle kid, a Mendingo boy, a beat ass kid. And then there's this other kid, and this other kid likes to do stuff like kick the garbage can over, like he was doing on the first Friday. You know, he liked to kick the garbage can over. Now, you don't have you're not going to put hands on that little fucking snot-nosed bastard that keep kicking your garbage can over. But you have this beat-ass son, right? And one day, this son just beats the crap out of the garbage can kid. And you give him an Xbox. Now, you never actually told him to whoop that kid's ass, but you just rewarded him for doing it. And you kept rewarding him for doing it. Every time he get his ass beat, he get a new video game cartridge or link or whatever they use nowadays. Every time he does it, he gets an iPhone. Now, you're not actually encouraging it, or excuse me, you're not actually saying it, but you are strongly encouraging it. And I think that is what the church is doing with the women's events, the women's empowerment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But once again, it's reflecting the will of women. They want to feel comfortable being single.
A relationship or a marriage. I have heard preachers say, I am not your God. I am not your husband. Love your husbands. Do what you got to do. What I have heard is the church tell you it is better to marry than to burn. and you shouldn't shack up, and you shouldn't be in these long-term committed relationships acting like you're married and you're not. That's my experience. And I'm 37 years old. What I can say is there.
Okay, that is weird that a church would say that. Because what you're saying, what you just said, is the church doesn't tell you how to sustain a marriage, but they strongly govern your actions leading into marriage. And believe it or not, that's the whole goal of these women who actually genuinely are single and complaining. They're like, you know, how do I get married? Not how do I stay married?
There's this hypercritical lens on church that church is supposed to develop you into a wife or a husband, and that is false. What's supposed to happen is we are supposed.
Okay. Wow. And this thinking is why the Black church, in a great many ways, is fucked up. A great many ways is fucked up. Do the Catholic Church ever say it's not my job? Do the white Christian church ever say it's not the church's job? Do the Mormon church ever say it's not the church's job? Do the Islamic church ever say it's not the church's job? That is weird. That is a reflection of Black people, which is why communities fit. Like, geez, and I'm not even talking about, you know, and I actually agree with it. I actually agree with her. However, the sentiment behind it, because it is every other church's job, at least if you ask the church, and everything is their job. I'm going to go with the strongest of the ones that I mentioned, which is the Catholic Church. Like, if you were to ask the Pope, is it the Catholic Church job to educate children in the inner cities? Like, yes, it is. It's called Catholic school. Is it their job to educate them on a college level? Yes, it is. It's called Notre Dame. Oh, well, is it their job to help with medical care? Yes, it is. That's why most hospitals are called Saint something or other. Like Saint Jude, or, you know, Saint God, or, you know, Saint Fix My Broken Jaw. Like, the answer is almost always yes. Is it their job to feed hungry families in Africa? Like, what in the hell? If you ask the Pope anything, is it the church's job to ... The answer will always be yes, no matter what the ... is. So for her to just stand there and say it's not our job, it's not the church's job to get you into a relationship. Okay. But don't be, I mean, it's okay for a church to take that stance, you know, because each and every single entity determines what their obligation is. However, don't be surprised if your congregation, like, you know something, it's not my job to donate to your fucking cause. It's not my job to donate. It's not my job to put cushions in your seat that you've been passing the collection plate for over 20 years. And still it ain't no cushions on the seat. It ain't my job to go to your shit every Sunday. They said it best on the movie Ray. We need to stop saying it ain't my job. And we need to start saying it needed to be done. And once again, this goes back to what I was saying. Black people don't hook each other up. You never hear black people say we met through mutual black friends. Never. And non-black people, they not only hook you up, but if you just so happen to find yourself past 30 and single, they become like, and reasonably attractive. They become like actually ecstatic. Like they are like eager to let you fuck their sister. Like, wait a minute, you're 32 and single? Well, Rebecca will be just perfect for you. They are eager in that regard. Black people never do it. Not going to get, too deep into that. That's a whole separate video. But I'm just saying what she's describing, the sentiment behind it is, what she's saying about the church, that same sentiment goes to black people in general.
To get a front row seat into a healthy, God-centered marriage from the ages of birth to 18, 20, 21, and 30 years old, and have people help us throughout our lives to be married, whether that be our parents or the people in the church, the body, me and you, the body of Christ. However, we're imperfect, so that doesn't happen. Normally, we go years, decades, or our whole lives without seeing a marriage that we want to emulate or that represents God and Christ. We see a lot of abuse. We see a lot of cheating, neglect from both sides, men and women. What I will say is there's not enough emphasis on personal character development. Now, this is why I do not like to criticize that church keeps women single. The church does not know you in a personal one-on-one relationship. The church does not know who you are behind closed doors. The church does not know who you are as a wife or a mother or a girlfriend or boyfriend or everything in between. So sometimes people think, oh, because I love Jesus, because I go to church, because I'm a good God-fearing woman, that means that I'm good to be in a relationship with, and that is false. A lot of times we have character flaws that we don't even know.
Okay. I like where this chick is going. I probably watched the whole thing. I like where this chick is going because she's calling out the illusion. A lot of women go to church to create an illusion. And this illusion is to mask who she truly is the other 7 days a week. They go to church to clap their hand, to the, off-key choir. They go there so they could do that for 45 minutes, listen to a 15-minute sermon, and then, end with the. And I guess the pastor's supposed to say, oh, you're a good church woman. But you're right. The pastor really don't know you. And maybe that's why black people don't hook each other up. Because there's so many facades being placed out there.
About until we are in an intimate relationship where somebody can point it out to us. And if we are with the wrong person, sometimes we can overemphasize what they're doing to us, hurting us, not being faithful, not serving God themselves, that we miss the ways that we can develop. Sometimes we're so focused on the relationship, we're not seeing our blind spots. We're not seeing how we're not serving the Lord. We're not seeing how we're unpleasant to be with, how we have attitudes, how we need to check ourselves, how we can be selfish, how we can be self-centered. Now, the criticism of women.
She is killing it. She's right. A lot of women go to church to reflect an image of themselves that's false. They go, after shaking ass and sucking dick for 6 days a week, they go to church where they're this, where they can create an image of being this holy divine being. And they can actually feel like they are, they can live that illusion. But she just straight up pointing out, like, listen, you're not a good person. You're just a bad person that's going to a good place.
in the church are too worried about marriage or too like focused on marriage, I think that that's really not a wise take, because that's the focus. That's what it should be. Women should not try to be girlfriends. They should try to be wives. However, how you go about that can be weird, right? If you don't know a man and you're
trying to be a wife without being a girlfriend is trying to be a PhD without being a student. She's losing me with that.
trying to make him your husband before vetting him properly, I can see where that can be a problem. However, in my personal opinion, too much emphasis is put on the women to be pure, and the same is not had on the men. The men can just, oop, you're human, you can do what you want, oop, you can slip.
I don't know what church she's going to. But most black churches have unpure women like in the congregation. And with receipts. You know, like the whole what do you call that area? The whole youth group is full of children of single mothers. And the youth pastor don't have any kids. Like, so it's not really, so that's a lie. This whole thought that men are not held accountable at church, but women are, is no.
And fall in the nookie, and women are put on this unrealistic purity pedestal that they're supposed to hold the purity.
What church you go to?
To this standard, while the men can kind of just do whatever they want and they just ask for forgiveness. That's what I see. And I know that's not everybody's experience. That's just my lens where I'm coming.
Yeah. Your lens is full of crap.
From as a 37-year-old Christian, I think that there's also too much dating in the church, right? The singles ministry is not where you go to hook up with somebody. It's to go to get personally developed with God.
It literally is. It literally is where you go up to hook up with someone. If your church has a singles ministry, it is literally where you go for that reason. You want to know where you go to get right with God? Ministry. The singles ministry is for people to start families, to not be single. And you're the reason our niggas don't go. You got the slimmest waist and the biggest tits in the singles ministry. You're the first ones that the guys are going to approach. And then you say, oh no, I didn't come to the singles ministry to find a man. What the fuck? What the fuck? After that, they don't want to go. Because you that bitch. And then you tell all the other single women in the single ministry that this nigga tried to fuck. So now he's ruined. He's just burned at that whole church. Because they don't want to be second choice. Jesus.
I think that there's...
I'm going to play that again. The singles ministry... Black women do this shit every fucking where they go, and it is annoying. Every fucking place they go, they do this shit. And it is annoying beyond reproach, and they wonder why people stop going to wherever it is the fuck they are. Black women are the ones to get dressed in the form-fitting dress, get their hair did, get their makeup done, and put glitter on the top of their titties, go to the club and say, I'm not going to the club to find a dude. Bitch! They do this shit every fucking where they go. Remember, I was giving her the benefit of the doubt, but this Dizzy broad just said that this singles event is not where you go to meet singles or shit. Like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? They constantly do this shit. They just, it's like they get together in meetings at the church to figure out ways to annoy the fuck out of GameChanger. That is sick. That is sick. That's like going to a meat market and saying, this isn't the place to buy meat. Huh? What the fuck? I didn't go to the nightclub to find a man. I went to a nightclub to dance. Gosh, they are so fucking annoying. And this is why brothers don't go to church, don't go to the club, because they're just sick of this bullshit. They are sick. Malcolm X speaks on how sick he was of this bullshit. They bring it everywhere they go.
Too much emphasis on the church doing this and church doing that. And that's not the church's job. The church is to gather the saints so we can pray, get to know Jesus, be sanctified, go through our, have people to lean on, go through our process and have a community. It is not to find your husband. It is not to find your wife. Now, if you happen to find your husband and wife in the midst of that, then cool. But there's not enough emphasis on this is your brother in Christ until he's not. This is your sister in Christ until she's not. We have too much, oh, he's cute, I want to see, we believe in Jesus, let's see. No, that ain't how it works. Also, there's a lot of practical skills that you need in a relationship, that you need in a marriage, that again, is not the church's responsibility to teach you. That is what community is for. That is for you to be around people, like-minded people, and to call you out on your stuff. And when they call you out, instead of shutting them out and shutting them down and say, God, remove them from my life, he's showing you a mirror of who you are and who you.
It's not the church's job to do this. That's the community's job. The church is a community. Wow. She's 37. Where in the fuck do they find these people?
Need to be and who you need to become and who you need to elevate to. Now, again, nobody's perfect, but sometimes we over spiritualize relationships, not to say that God ain't in it, not to say that Christ isn't in it, but there are practical things, there are practical ways in a relationship that you have to be.
See, the thing that bothers me about her most of all is her whole stance that, this isn't the place to find single people. If a woman is serious, if a woman is serious about finding a mate, then every place is a place to find a mate. Each and every single place is a place to find a mate. I'm going to repeat that. If you are serious, if a woman is truly serious, each and every single place she is at is a place to find a mate. If you ask a woman who's married how she met her husband, and she tells you something that's completely off the wall, it means that she was serious. So, how did you meet your husband? I met my husband at my grandmama's funeral. He's the mortician. She was serious. She did, because listen, anything else means that you are wasting opportunities and you're not taking the process seriously. If you were serious, I remember the most awkward place I could remember and I was unsuccessful. Trying to pick up a chick, was at CVS, and I didn't even pay attention to where in CVS I was at. It was either CVS or Walgreens, but they're the same. I didn't even pay attention to like where in the store I was at. I just seen what I wanted and I approached. She was buying tampons. Awkward as hell, right? But if she was serious, hey, if you're serious, you will consider all possibilities. Like, yeah, I met my husband in the tampon aisle at CVS. So for a woman to walk around, damn, these broads are dizzy. For a woman to walk around in church talking about it's not the time or place. Everywhere's the time or place when you're serious. If you were unemployed and somebody at church offered you a job, now granted, you know, the church isn't linked in, but you don't turn it down. You don't say this isn't the place for that.
You have to die to yourself. You have to be unselfish. You have to be selfless. You have to put others before you at times. And that's what we're not willing to do, whether in the church or with outside of the church. So again, I think that the emphasis is put way too much on the church and not the individuals who are not working on themselves, who are not developing themselves.
Basically, she's just trying to make the church escape accountability and put it on the individuals. And I put it on the individuals too. You know, but let's not. I mean, it's the individuals who think stuff like the church isn't a place for that. The singles ministry isn't a place to find a mate. Like, women are stupid like that. They say stuff like college is a place to study. It's not a place to find a mate. And everybody else get married in college. They're stupid like that. You're stupid. You're dumb as fuck. Your hair is nice. Shut your country, man. God damn.
Who are not looking themselves in the mirror and say, you know what, I wasn't a great person in this relationship, or I kind of suck at this, or I could do better at this. Being in a marriage is, yes, one spiritual, because you are vowing to God that you're going to be with somebody. However, you have to make the decision every day. You have to check your attitude. You have to check who, you know, how you're being and how you're moving and all of the things. You have to say yes every day. You lean on the Holy Spirit to give you strength. You call on Jesus' name when you need him, but you still have to make the effort each and every day. Like, God isn't a puppeteer. He doesn't make you do anything. It's a choice. So I think that the overemphasis is, and the blame is being put on the church, when really it's the individuals in the body of Christ. They need to get it together.
Yeah, she's just saying stuff with the goal in mind to have the church escape accountability. And you're right, it's not the church's job, but I mean, let's not pretend that that doesn't reflect on the quality of church it is. You know, it's not the Catholic church's job necessarily to take care of orphan children. But the Catholic community has a lot of orphanages, and you know, there are a lot of nuns with rulers that take care of these orphans. It's not necessarily their job, but I mean, if there was a religious Olympics, the Black church would be like at the bottom. They would be like, you know, Norway in the relay race. They would just be like the fucking last of all. You know, they would be the worst ever. They would be like, you know, the Irish. They would be the Irish of the Summer Olympics. They would be just like the shittiest one. And that's the Black church. They're the fucking African ski team in the Winter Olympics. Like that is the Black church. It's just full of fuck ups because they're not doing anything and they're asking for the most, just like they're women. What the fuck?
Men and women. You need to be sexually moral. You need to turn yourself away. And again, it's not about being perfect. I'm not perfect. My husband's not perfect. However, you do have to die to yourself. However, you do have to check yourself. However, you do have to pray and ask God, hey, God, shut my mouth. Hey, God, help me with this. It is not always on people. It's not always on the church. And it's not the church's job.
Okay, so if you should be asking God for stuff and not asking the church for stuff, then why in the fuck you even go to church? If you're talking to God directly, which is the pillar of the Protestant, faith, why even go to church? Isn't that the church's responsibility to help you through problems? That's God's responsibility. Oh, okay. Well, then, I would say see you next Sunday, but nope.
To teach you how to be in a relationship. That is a skill that you are supposed to learn growing up, or you go out in the world and learn it. If you need help, I got you. I am a certified life coach, and I help women prepare for marriage, because it's not the church's job. It is the body of Christ, and that's what we are here to do. So,
the fact that they have a certificate for life coaches is retarded. First of all, you could give certificates out for anything. I literally have a dick suck certificate that I pass out to women. Like, you are a certified dick sucker. Congratulations, you have earned this certification. What the fuck? I'm a certified life coach. So now we see her agenda. Her agenda is to separate what would be considered free counsel from the church and bring women to her counsel outside of church. That's her agenda.
The Black church's focus is not on building families. It's about keeping women single, comfortable.
Oh, we already seen her.
Fake ass motherfucking pastors. A lot of you bitches right now are single because of your fucking pastor.
Okay.
You said nigga, you kept running your mouth to your nigga and shit, keep telling him what pastor said. Bitch, fuck your motherfucking pastor. You bitch, you're not even smart enough to understand what a nigga trying to fuck too.
Well, there
Fake
you go.
Ass motherfucking pastor.
Can't argue with that
Here's
logic.
my hot take, right? I don't like hot takes, but this is my hot take, and don't clutch your pearls when I say this. It's just a theory, my theory, for me, right? But my theory is that the Black church keeps women single.
Okay.
And it's not because of God.
It's not that you're old, overweight, with camouflage fatigues on. It's none of that. But let's hear you out.
But it's what is taught, what is modeled, what is preached, what is conveyed across the pulpit about men. And so in a lot of Black churches, the pastor, he's not just the pastor. He is the example. He's the standard. He's polished. He's well-spoken. He's well-dressed. He's emotionally expressive. He's understanding. He prays. He hears from God. He's like perfection, right? He becomes a measuring stick. And because of this, women in the church, they do pedestalize the pastor, right? I have seen so many women. I was a member of the Black church for a long time, and the pastor is the man. A lot of the female congregations, they crush on the pastor. He's a powerful man, and oftentimes, he.
Okay, so her premise is because the Black pastor is eligible, it's keeping Black women single. Okay. All right. Let's just break this. Let's just break this down. Let's just break this logic down. Rihanna keeps me single because she's so fucking sexy. Because Rihanna is so attractive, I can't be with a less attractive woman. That's a you problem. That's not a church problem. That damn sure isn't a Rihanna problem. That is a you problem. What the fuck? I went to a Beyonce concert and I can't fuck anybody now. Okay, let's move past this.
Hey, so I've seen a couple of videos about how the church is keeping black girls.
I know y'all don't see me, but I'm in my 40s and I got hair up top. When that goes away, and it definitely will in my family, it's destined to happen. I'm on borrowed time. I've been on borrowed time for about 20 years now. I am on borrowed time. When it goes away, I am not going to replace it on my face. I'm just going to let it go. I am going to keep my clean-shaven face the way it is. And I am not going to go for the black Viking look. There, I said it.
Single. That's interesting. Can somebody break that down to me? Because I'm trying to figure out what that premise is all about, where that came from, because I'm really interested in it. I actually want to sit down with someone who, who has that ideology or who has that belief, and to get more understanding of what it is that they're talking about. So can somebody please be so kind to break it down for me? Because I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know, man, because you're talking about the church is keeping black girls single. Let me know what that means.
Okay. So,
okay, so I've seen
you came here to ask a question and not answer one. All right, let's go for it.
Did you know that 60% of black women that go to church, they are unmarried?
I'd like to know your
single.
business.
Why is that? You go to all the women's conferences. I mean, come on, you've sown, you've tithed, you've served in a children's ministry, on the usher board. I mean, the greeting ministry, and you still are unmarried in the church. We need to talk about it. I mean, this is serious. I mean, think about it. The same pastor that asked you for the tithe and sow this and do that, make him accountable. Make him accountable. Yes, absolutely. Just think about it, people. I thought about this. All right, if you know that 60% of the women in your church are unmarried, wouldn't you want to have conferences, single conferences, to be able to take care of all your so-called daughters?
Well, according to the last chick, single conferences isn't for single people to meet up. She was right in the sense that there's a lot of inner work going on, and men cannot get with women who are still on some foolishness.
Ashley of Single Woman Chronicles, where being single is a beautiful choice rather than a miserable circumstance. And today, I want to talk about, is the church keeping women single? Dr. Umar recently did an...
Oh my gosh. So, Miss Piggy's daughter is saying that being single is a beautiful choice. Okay, let's dig into it.
Interview where he said he believes that the church is keeping Black women single specifically. Now, there are some points that Dr. Umar makes that I believe in, but this is one that I do not, because as a woman who is single, who is Black, who goes to church, I do not think the church is keeping us single.
Okay.
The reason I do believe that a lot of unbelievers think that way is because when you watch sermons on people who are single, you only hear them say, oh, wait on it. Oh, the God will send it. Oh, mind your business, do what you have to do your purpose, and then your husband will come. But a lot of the pastors that are preaching on this, they haven't been single in this day and age. And also, dating is not a biblical principle.
Okay, she's right about that. They are coming from a very, very, very outdated perspective. Because even the fact that they're alive means that they grew up in a time where the church was from an outdated perspective, meaning that, the church has been outdated for over the natural human lifespan. That's how long it's been outdated, which means that your husband and wife who married under, the belief system of the church, they actually married under an outdated format. They just, you know, like if they married in the 80s, they didn't do the typical thing. They just did what their grandparents did. So they were working on an old format. Now they're continuing to preach this old format, and it's not going to work in mass unless you can convince both sides to do it. And both sides aren't going to do it that way. They're just not.
So I think they're trying to tell us to wait on God, but they're not telling us how to actively do it in this day and age.
Which is, and she's right. It's not keeping you single. However, because not facilitating for people to get into a relationship isn't keeping them single. Just like not hiring somebody isn't keeping them unemployed. However, I mean, you could argue that it's stopping them from being employed, or it's helping to stop them from being employed. You know, you're not solving the problem, but you're not causing it either.
Now, I do believe, as a person who is a Christian who reads my word, I don't think God wants me to be single, because even in his word, he said it is not good for man to be alone. And he said it's better to marry than to burn. Okay, amen. So because I know God for myself, I'm not just listening to pastors.
And see, this is what I'm talking about when I say outdated principles, because the Bible, through most of biblical history, if they had to convince men to want women, and that's throughout, you know, written human history. You know, you didn't have to convince women to want to be married. You had to convince the men. And trust me, it was a very, very, very hard sell. It was a very, very, very hard sell. I want y'all to think about the show Game of Thrones. Most of Game of Thrones, most of the fighting and bloodshed was over, nigga, you gonna marry my daughter. That's how hard it is to convince a man to marry back in the time. And I know it's not like a natural timeline, but in medieval times and, you know, romantic times and stuff like that, it was very, very difficult. You had Elder Frey saying, like, listen, I'll let you cross my bridge. I'll even get 2,000 men for you to fight to the death, but you got to marry one of my daughters. And if you don't, I will fucking kill you at somebody else's wedding. Okay? Get it? Got it? Good. The entirety of Westeros burned because Jon Snow wouldn't marry Daenerys Targaryen. Okay, it is hard for a bitch to get married. They had to really convince men to marry them. They had to really convince men to want to marry women. That's why the Bible is full of verses like, you know, he who has found a wife and blah, 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 because they had to sell men on this concept. And they spent thousands of years selling men on the concept. That's what all the text is going to say. But now the circumstances is you have to convince the women to want it and to want to keep it. But the church hasn't adapted to that. They're still trying to get the men on board. And okay, they got the message 2,000 years ago. Now you got to keep the women on board, and they're not.
Reading my word, I'm praying, I'm asking God. I do not believe that he wants me to be single, because sure enough, he gonna give me the desires in my heart, which is a husband. It's actually a Single Woman Chronicles, where being single is.
I've seen a lot of conversation on social recently about the church keeping women single, and I agree with that. But not only do they keep women single, they simultaneously make women idealize marriage, which makes it even worse. It's like a double entendre.
Church, you know, taught her one thing, and I agree with you, man. The church, we are responsible for messing up a lot of singles, because what church does a lot of times for women is that it teaches them how to spend all of their time with an invisible man, and they can't serve a visible one.
Wow. I told y'all he was going to do it. Didn't I tell you he was going to come with some heat?
Yeah.
Okay. Though it gives them church. Yeah, what he's saying is true, but I don't even think that they're serving an invisible man. You know, like real talk, nunneries are for bitches like that, and they're not nuns. At least not the Christian ones. You know, but however, there are places where women can walk around and serve God without serving men a sandwich. You know, they, you know, and these would be the women who are at the orphanages, you know, what do you call it? Not the orphanarium or something like that. You know, these are the ones who are building huts in Africa and, you know, irrigation ditches and stuff like that. These are the ones who dedicate their life to doing good. And there aren't any single black women doing that. There's a bunch of single black women just getting fatter and complaining about niggas not fucking them. So, you know, there's that. Yeah, exactly. Missionary work, you know. These bitches don't even do missionary position. So there is that. They are dedicated to uselessness. They're not married to God. They just go to church to find other like-minded bitches to slow motion hug with and set it off. But he is cooking, so let me continue. Let me listen more. Oh, the last dude, he didn't know what the fuck he was talking about. I just went past him.
Yeah, man, and it's like the story of Boaz and Ruth is probably the worst story
that is
to
true.
try to compare to today's life.
Wow,
Because
tell me
number
why.
one,
Tell me why.
you do not want that kind of experience. Ruth was a widow, so you don't want to be married and then your husband die, and then you have to have a kinsman redeemer. The only reason she even met Boaz was because she had to have a kinsman redeemer. And what that is during that time, it wasn't good for a woman to be single because she either be a slave or a prostitute.
Okay. He made a mistake there. During that time, it wasn't good for a woman to be single. It's never a good time for a woman to be single. It's never a good time for a woman to be single. Just the fact that you say that means that you believe that now is a good time for a woman to be single. See, and this is why brothers don't go to church, because you're thinking about it from the perspective of a woman. You're saying that back then it wasn't a good time for the woman to be single. Because slave or prostitute. And really those are the same thing when you stop and think about it. Like, if you just so happen to be the owner of a female slave, then chances are you use her as a prostitute. Just saying. But nevertheless, he's saying that it was a bad time for the woman back then. But it's okay now. And it is okay now for the woman. It affects all of society in a bad way. It affects her children in a bad way if she's a single mother. And it affects society in a bad way because she don't just go away and shut the fuck up at a nunnery or something like that. No. She's out on YouTube, on TikTok, convincing other bitches to be single and to take her path. So not only is it, contagious, it's also destructive and disruptive. They disrupt society. It affects the birth rate. It affects the fertility. It affects the piety of other women all around them. So it may be a better time for women, but it's a worse time for everyone around. It's never a good time for society for women to be single in it. But he is not speaking for society. He's speaking for women like far too many pastors, which is why we don't go.
So she had to be married. So she basically was desperate,
You're a contrarian. You just say shit. They got some good middle distance runner. No, they do not. No, they do not. No, they don't. You just saying shit. I gotta start ignoring shit like that more. You just saying they got good middle distance runner. Damn it. You need to raise. I don't know what that shit is. I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna give him like 15 seconds to say something smart.
It talks about how she threw herself on the threshing room floor. That was an act of saying, I need you to survive. Cover me. Take care of me. You know, and understand, during that day and age, you could have more than one wife.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part of the Bible they don't talk about. See, the Bible is a record of what happened, not always what should have happened. Hear what I'm saying? And everything that
I'll give you more time.
is practical for today. You really don't want to, you want to get an Adam, because Adam said, you're bone of my bone, you're flesh of my flesh. He recognized.
Adam should have said, get me a sandwich instead of fuck away from that tree.
Who Eve was, because God took a part of him and made her. So what makes a man, what made Ken settle down with his wife? He saw a part of himself in her. And he understood. See, when a man see himself in you, it lets him know I could be vulnerable with you. You know, the Bible says that God closed that place.
All right, I'm done with him. He dips in and out of foolishness.
So is the church?
She dips in and out of foolishness. Okay. She looks like church, but she sounds like a ratchet bitch. Let's listen.
Church keeping women single. Let's talk about it. And I feel very qualified to add my 2 cents to this conversation because I am a Christian woman that is single, that attends church. I'm 28 years old. I'm a virgin, and I've been single for about 9 years now. So I know a thing or two about waiting. And I want to take this.
You've been single for infinity years. You've been single since you were born. It's not like, I mean, you're a virgin. So, you know, like I've been single for 9 years. What, when you were 19? So what, did you hold hands with somebody when you were 18 and then he just let go to get with somebody that actually fucks? Like, yeah. Okay. I want to see where this is going though.
Moment to acknowledge my sisters in Christ that have also been waiting for a very long time, those that are older than me, well into their 30s, 40s, 50s. I want to acknowledge you. I know that this journey has not always been easy. You may have felt frustrated at times, hopeless, angry, sad, an array of emotions. And I just want you to know that that is totally okay, totally normal, and God can handle your humanity. I would encourage you to just take your emotions to God. So what I'm about to say may not be popular, but I felt led to share it. I don't think that the church is keeping women single. I think that God is keeping women single. Now, before you log off, let me cook.
Oh, wow. She said that right before I was to log off. I was just about to log off. Okay, since God told you I was about to just hit the down button on your ass, let's hear what she has to say.
I think we need to acknowledge and recognize God's sovereignty, his timing, and his will. Okay? Now, I want to share something that I heard Jackie Hill Perry say that really did a great job of articulating exactly what I'm feeling when it comes to this conversation. She did a podcast a few years ago with the Azamwus, and they were talking about dating, right? And the question came up if Christians, should be on apps, should they go to these single events? Like, what should they do? And she said ever so clearly that we need to recognize that we cannot manufacture the will of God. So she said, basically, and these are my words now, there's nothing you can do to quote unquote expedite this process?
Now, somebody might listen to this dizzy bitch and say, wow, the church has really done a number on her in keeping her single. The church didn't keep her single. Her being a stupid bitch kept her single. You see, people tend to pick and choose what they want from the Bible. One person can read the Bible, and then next thing you know, he's starting WW2. Another person could read the Bible and he's digging ditches in developing countries. People take what they want from it, and what they take from the Bible is a reflection of them. She believes God is telling her to do nothing and expect stuff, and she's been walking around with an empty pussy for 9 years, really her whole life, for 28 years. And she hadn't pieced it together that you actually have to do stuff to get stuff. You're stupid like that. How many guys you think approached her and she said, God want me single? In her brain, that's what she said. That's her stupidity. Her married pastor didn't tell her that shit. And her married pastor's wife did not tell her that shit. That's why she became a wife. You are a fucking imbecile. Blame God for that. Blame God for making you a fucking moron. You're stupid. I want to hear more because I like stupidity.
And you're not so powerful that you can even mess up this process. So what I mean, and I believe what Jackie was saying in the podcast is, if it's God's will for you to meet your spouse in this season, you will meet him. Period. I'm not saying to, be in.
So it's God's will for you to not meet a spouse until you're 28 ever. That's God's will. Listen, if a 30-year-old virgin asks you out and you say no, that's your fucking will. And if you say yes, that's also your will. Like, where do God come into the individual decision making? Because there's going to come a point where you have to make a decision. Jesus.
Your room and close the door and just read the Bible and rock back and forth and say Jesus, 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 and your husband's gonna appear and knock and come through the door and be like, I'm here. No.
That's exactly what you're saying. But I'm gonna, like I said, I like to hear stupidity, so let's go.
I'm not saying that. I know some of y'all like to argue, faith without works is dead, which is very true, very biblical. So yeah, get out there, engage, but don't do it with the intent that, oh, this is going to help me find my spouse. Do it because you
don't engage with the intent to find engagement. No matter what level of piety they're on, Black women always come to the same dumb shit. The same, I'm going to the club to not find a man. I put this dress on to not have a dude talk to me. I went to the Christian singles ministry to not meet up with other singles. They always come back to the same shit. I'm going to explain why that is. Even though I could make a whole new video on that, I'm going to explain why that is. The reason is because they're afraid to be vulnerable. They're afraid to, because they want to negotiate from a position of superiority. So they're never going to admit to themselves that they want what a man has to offer. They always want to talk to men from the standpoint of, you want me, but I don't want you. So I'm going to go out, but God tells me I don't really want you. I don't really need you, but I still want you to shut the fuck up. You obnoxious, dizzy bitch.
Want to do it. If you want to learn golf or tennis or pickleball, do it because you genuinely have an interest in doing it, not because you're trying to find some wealthy man of God on the golf course, okay? You don't want to go, you're not trying to spend money to go to the Kentucky Derby because you feel like your man could be there. Do it because you genuinely have interest in doing it. Don't get all dolled up and smelling all good for the potential of finding your husband. Do it because you deserve to do it.
I told you, same brand of stupidity that all these bitches are on. It's the same brand of stupidity. I'm shaking my ass not because I want a man to notice me, but because I like shaking my ass. I'm smelling good not because I want to attract a mate, but because I like smelling good. Black women are annoying as fuck. As fuck. As fuck. As fuck.
You deserve to look good and smell good for yourself. Okay? There are
What a fucked up creature. Exactly. Laura, black women really do think, act, and talk the same way. Exactly. It's fucking groupthink. It's ants. They're fucking ants. They all just walk the same trail and do the same shit. Like, no nuance and no individual thoughts. Like, I mean, every now and again you get like that bird that be a part of the flock that just flies a little bit off the V. But I mean, outside of that, man, it's all the same. It's all the same. Like all they fucking do. I mean, trust me, this all stems from the same thing, and that is the joy of shooting niggas down. That's what that's the reason that she's smelling. That's the reason that she's going out. That's the reason that she's putting makeup on, and that's the reason why she's walked around with an empty pussy for fucking her whole. She's 29 and she's a 29-year-old virgin.
people that are doing all the things, going to all the events, are on all the apps, and they're still single. Why? Because you are not that powerful. You can't.
They're still single because they're doing the same shit you are doing it. They're just doing it to a greater extent. They're going on the apps for them.
Help God. God doesn't need your help. My parents met at a time there wasn't apps. My grandparents met at a time there wasn't app. My great-grandparents met at a time there wasn't apps.
Were any of those fucking people 29-year-old virgins? Were any of those fucking people 29-year-old virgins? No, she's 28. Were any of those people 28-year-old virgins? Were any of those people that? So you have to actually ask yourself or ask them, what did they do? And you want to know what they did? When your daddy approached your mama, she eventually fucked him. Same as your grandmamas and your granddaddies and your great grandmamas and your great granddaddies. You are here because a lot of fucking people said it is not my season to be a fucking virgin. You dizzy twat.
There's nothing, no formula to it. It will happen when God wants it to happen. And that's all I'm trying to say. And that is my kind of 2 cents when it comes.
Hey, somebody tell me, is that a purity ring that she has on? Isn't a purity ring something you give to like 13-year-olds?
To this conversation. And I also want to remind the saints on today that just know that when you do things God's way, I know you're not going to like this, but it often takes longer. We can't compare ourselves to the world.
How come it didn't take your grandmama longer?
World, okay? I know you may look at your peers, your classmates, those you grew up with, and they're not maybe living for God and they seem to just be getting married left and right. Well, okay, we can't compare ourselves to the world. And God often makes his children wait. Come on, Abraham and Sarah. Come on, Moses. Come on, Hannah. Come on, woman with the issue of blood. Like, come on. There's countless times God made.
Wait. Issue of blood? What the fuck are you talking about? In about 5 years, you won't have a blood issue and you'll still be a virgin. 5 to 10 years, you won't even have periods and shit and you'll still be a virgin. You think God planned that shit for you? No, that's yo stupid.
People wait. And unfortunately, it wasn't for 2 days. It was for years sometimes. But please know that the waiting is not ever in vain. In the waiting, he's pruning and processing you. He's growing you. He's maturing.
Somebody said a purity ring comes from your father, not from yourself. If I gave my daughter a purity ring at 13 and she still had the shit on at 29, I'd take it off and say, give me a grandbaby. What the fuck? What the fuck? Just like I don't still have my fucking Boy Scout uniform, she should not have a purity ring.
You. I'm personally so glad that God.
Who keeps their junior high certificate of completion around? Like, what the? Some things just got to go.
God didn't send my husband at 21-year-old Courtney, because 21-year-old Courtney, I didn't care about my health like I do now. I'm working out, I'm meal prepping, I'm cooking more at home, I'm eating out less. 21-year-old Courtney was not about that. Like, I mean, I always say that.
Don't talk like you're a better person now. And don't act like you was wild and crazy at 21. You was still a fucking virgin. It just took you 7 years to realize to eat better. You're trying to make it seem like a 29-year-old virgin is somehow better than a 21-year-old virgin. You have not improved at all. What the fuck?
You know, as time progressed, I just get better and better. And it gives me a glimpse.
You dizzy bitch! Christians don't know biology. You know you don't get better and better as time progresses. That's why you are eating better now. To substitute for the fact that your ass got worse. You think I don't fucking know I'm worse? Oh shit, yeah, I'm worse. And I eat better and exercise more to compensate for the fact that I'm worse. And guess what? It's still not enough. When I was 21, I kid you not, I had Cinnabons and a banana every fucking morning. Every morning I could get to Cinnabon, but when I couldn't, I would go to the back of the Mexican truck and get me some donuts and a banana, and that's breakfast every single morning. I ate that shit every single morning, and I went to sleep with a 6-pack. You want to know why? Because I'm 20 fucking 1. And I could do that shit. You think I could do that shit now? No, because I'm worse. I'm worse. I don't say I get better with time. I get more money with time, but I don't get better. Fuck that. She is, look at her eyes. She is completely delusional. She is completely delusional. I had to pause. I had to pause to gather my thought in the face of such stupidity.
Lips of my future husband. So, there was a time where Courtney didn't have a master's, but Courtney has a master's now.
What in the hell? Do your mama have a master's? Do your grandmama have a master's? Do your great grandmama have a master's? Why do you think that you're doing something better than they were doing?
There was a time Courtney wasn't a homeowner, but Courtney's a homeowner now. So when it's like the price keeps coming up. So I'm like, oh my God, I keep getting better. So my future.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. This requires further investigation. This requires further investigation. I am definitely going to click on. She just gets dizzier and dizzier. This bitch said the price is going up. And so hear this out. Hear this out. Because she reveals, Dizzy Bros like this reveals how Black women think. How Black women think. This is how they all look at themselves. They look at themselves as a commodity, and they are trying to raise the price of said commodity. I'm going to repeat that. They are trying to raise the price of said commodity. You see, she did the real reason has nothing to do with Jesus. The real reason why she was waiting at 21 had nothing to do with the Lord. It had nothing to do with that. She just felt that she could get a better deal if she waited. That's how they truly feel. They're like, listen, I could get a better deal if I wait, because what man wants a 21-year-old virgin, right? High value men don't want a 21-year-old virgin. They want a master's degree homeowner. You're stupid like that. Fucking stupid. And it all comes down to trying to get a better deal. They're constantly pricing themselves out of the fucking market. They're constantly pricing themselves out of the fucking market. You're stupid. I was wondering where the fuck was she going with this? Because on one hand, she was saying, you shouldn't go to Facebook you shouldn't go to dating sites, and you shouldn't go to singles events and stuff like that, because God is gonna send. I was like, well, how do you know if if the person you meet is one that God sent for you? Well, if he pays the price that I set for myself. And then that price is going to be high because I got a bunch of shit that guys don't care about. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. I know some of you was thinking like, how could this man just sit here and call a woman of God a stupid bitch so freely? That's why. Because if you scratch these, oh, I'm so pure, I'm so Christian, look at my purity room bitches, you'll find like an opportunist bitch the same as the other opportunist bitch. That's what it is. They're just looking for a better deal. They're just looking for a bigger dick, and they think that they pussy is getting better with time. Jesus fucking Christ. The worst auctioneers ever. Wow. Oh, I'm going to do a deep dive into this bitch. I see gold. I see gold. So when you're mining gold, once you find a little bit gold, you got to keep mining that spot because there's going to be like bigger gold. So I'm going to dig into this bitch. I know that there's more stupidity here to mine. Watch.
Your husband, he's going to be phenomenal because he could have met me. He could have met me before all of that. So that's kind of my thought.
So what if it's the same guy? What if you do meet this phenomenal guy tomorrow, right? And he's also 29. And he says, I was still phenomenal when I met you at 21. We just wasted time. We just wasted 7 years. That we could have been working together, buying a house together, one that's twice as big and shit.
Process with it. So your waiting's not in vain.
Your waiting is in vain.
To really see.
Oh, your waiting is in vain. You're stupid as fuck. Your waiting is in vain. There is nothing on this planet, and there's nothing you can ever get or offer that is more valuable than youth, fertility, and beauty. There is nothing ever that you can offer a man that is more valuable than that. Not a damn fucking thing ever. The only thing that comes close is sexual experience, and you don't even have that. The only thing that comes close to a young, beautiful, fertile woman is a woman in her 30s that spent the last, 15 years of her life perfecting sucking dick. Corinne Steffens. That's the only thing that comes close. That is the only thing that comes close is a Corinne Steffen level dick sucker. That is the only thing that comes close, and you're not even fucking that. Jesus. Damn. Once again, you wonder why Passport Bros, because they never did a deep dive into it because they're insider. They're part of the movement. I'm not. So I can give an outside perspective. So I could just look at the outside and say, some of these brothers are always going to Catholic nations. They don't even realize they're doing it because they're not going to church when they go to Brazil. That's for damn sure. But they always seem to find themselves in Catholic nations. They always seem to find themselves in the Philippines. They always seem to find themselves in Dominican Republic. They always seem to find themselves in Colombia. They always seem to find themselves in Brazil. They always seem to find themselves where there's a big Jesus or a little big Jesus on the top of a mountain. They always seem to find themselves in these places. That's not a coincidence. They're escaping dizzy ass bitches like this. They're escaping Protestant and Protestant influenced dingbats. Fuck.
God like never before. Another thing is God wants you to know that he is the only person that can truly fulfill you, so that when you learn that you can truly, live and just be him and you, he will be able to trust you to steward that spouse that he brings, and know that you won't idolize them because you know that they can't be the source of your joy or your fulfillment.
Bitch! This bitch is gonna give me laryngitis. She think it's a plus that she's not idle. So she's raising the price. She's waiting around, depreciating value and raising price just to get with a bitch that don't idolize you. Oh my God. Oh my God. Somebody needs to fucking douse you in not holy water. You are fucked up. You are an extremely, extremely fucked up person.
That you can only find that in God. So get in the secret place, get into purpose, okay? Start that, that thing, write that book, do that podcast, start that photography company, whatever God has placed in your heart, get into the field. Get into the field. Ruth was in the field. Okay.
Whatever God placed into your vagina, fucking fuck it. You busy bitch.
Okay, so that is my 2 cents. Basically, it will happen when God wants it to happen. There's no strategic planning of, it's because no, don't put that on the church. It hasn't happened because it hasn't been God's timing yet. So be encouraged and know that the waiting's not in vain. Good things come to those who wait. And I can't wait to share when he does come and be like, I told you. So y'all be blessed. So is the church keeping?
Okay. Now I'm going to do a deep dive. I was going to end at the 3-hour mark, but nope, I got to do a deep dive. Why does she look different here? And not just a little bit different. Oh my gosh, she's standing at a pulpit. Okay, let's see.
Will trip us young people up. He makes us think, we're so young and we can't be effective in the kingdom of God. But I'm just here to tell you that is a lie from the father of lies. It was only when Jesus was 12 years old that he said, I must be about the Father's business. You are never too young. There is no age requirement when it comes to the kingdom of God. And then I'm just kind of going off, but the Spirit is leading me this way. Another thing that I hear a lot of young people saying, it really grinds my gears, is like, I'll wait to, really live holy and all that when I get older. And I'm just like, no, listen, tomorrow's not.
Okay, this is why women aren't supposed to speak in church. And they wonder why men aren't going. Don't know what that was about. Ooh, she looks Mormon here. Okay, let's see what she has to say here.
Hey, she pretty and she prayed up. She got her own money, never took a pay cut. She locked in with the Lord, got the same.
Okay, so she's still on the same for the street shit. She just do it with a God swag. All right, let's damn these broads. Oh, she's AKA on top of everything, on top of all the other shit. Okay, so let's.
So I wanted to make a part 2 to this topic of being Christian and Greek. And I want to first acknowledge everyone's experience. There were people in the comments that kind of alluded to some of their membership experiences. And I want to acknowledge you and say that I am so sorry. to any hazing, bullying that one experienced during their membership process. That is not what these Divine Nine organizations stand for.
The fuck it's not. I'm not saying that it stands for that. But you do whoop ass. And you did have your ass whooped. Okay.
And, we have it in our policies that it's, anti-hazing organizations.
Yeah. They don't haze. If you believe that, I got a 28-year-old virgin to sell you.
But unfortunately, people can be very immature still. Power is in the wrong hands of, leaders of, the chapters, and just things can get out of hand. I also want to acknowledge that I understand that people can make their organization their life. They can make it their identity. And that's why I think it's very important.
All right, let's see. Okay, so it seems like the end of it. Apparently there was no gold in this mine. It's just I found the dumbest of all of her videos early on. So that's that. Oh, crap. GC question. She's not from Georgia. How the fuck should I know? Let me see. Clemson University? Tigers? Y'all tell me. I don't know. She too cute for Mississippi. I mean, maybe. All right. Let's see if I find another instrument. Oh no, that's still just her talking. All right. Let me see some more stuff. This is the type who will get knocked up by Pookie. I don't think so. I think that she is the type to wait for first of all, she's the type to get married to say that she got married. Let's start there. She's that type to get married to, just like she said, tell everybody I told you so. And then put her husband on sexual rations for the rest of his life. Pandora, no self-employed opportunities you can think of, like ride sharing, CDL, trucking, telemarketing at the crib. I don't know. That's a private conversation. All right. I understand. Ha ha ha. Okay, let's see. Price is going up. Yeah, exactly. She really revealed. That's what they're doing. They're fucking trying to Black women, they always do. They always play this pussy equity game. They always play that. They always play this pussy equity game, thinking that they're improving it, but really they're not. Imagine somebody buying a Porsche, a nigga buying a Porsche, a brand new Porsche, and then putting spinning rims on it and putting all kind of like nigga shit on it. And then 5 years later, try to sell it at a greater price, talking about I improved it. They're looking like, what the fuck? Yes, I improved this Porsche. Like, no, you didn't. It just got older and you put a bunch of shit on it that I don't want. Now, I mean, at best, I'm indifferent to. Like the master's degree. Like, okay, person has a master's degree. I'm indifferent to it. So, and see, here's the thing about age. That Black women, because they do physically age slower than other groups of women, to their credit, they still don't get that you are still that age. Take someone like, who's that chick? Who's that bitch that I covered yesterday? Shit, what's her name? Y'all help me out. The people who was here yesterday, y'all help me out. Who was that? What was her name? Was it Michelle? Oh shit. Was it Nikki? Help me out, y'all. Damn. Do something. Thank you. Melissa Ford. Thank you. So, like Melissa Ford, it's not a matter of what you look like. It's a matter of how many years is the pussy still good? How much more time I have on your pussy? There's going to come a day where it dries up, turns into sandpaper, and randomly start pissing. So if I get you at 20, that means I got 20 years before that happens. If I get you at 39, that means I got 1 year before shit really starts to get real. I only got 1 year of pleasure, no matter what you look like. I only got 1 good year of it. And even if you look the same, every time, every day that you X off a calendar is a day of good looking pussy, of pre-menopausal pussy that I lost out on. So far with you, men have lost 10, your future man has already lost 10 adult years of pre-menopausal pussy. He lost your whole 20s of 20s pussy. He lost it. It's gone. He's never going to get that. He's never going to get it. Never going to get it. He, and even if you don't ration him off in your 30s, he still will never know what it was like to have fucked you in your 20s. Nobody will. And you think a master's degree and, a mortgage is going to make up for that? You actually think that. You actually think that in your brain. I got a master's degree. Yeah, that's really that really makes up for a decade of young pussy and children who are the results of young pussy. You think that makes up for it, don't you? You think that makes up for like an extra 10 Christmases of with kids, don't you? Busy bitch shit. Yeah, exactly. When she said that the price going up, like, okay, the cost gone up. That doesn't mean the value went up. It doesn't mean the value went up. That's the problem. Black women are experts at raising the cost of some shit, but they don't ever raise the value. Like, yes, I'm going to charge more for this. Was it more valuable? No. Is it better in any way? No. Not any way that's valuable to you. So why are you charging more for it? Because says, I wonder how much debt that she has. It depends on if you count secure or unsecured debt. Either way, it's probably a decent amount, but it seems like she can handle it. So, there's that. But, not everything is what it seems when you're dealing with this type of woman. But yeah. Game Changer, you would be surprised as someone who grew up in a Pentecostal adjacent denomination. Those people loathe society and the process of their children becoming independent. I was a rebel. Okay. Too grown. Okay. Appreciate you. Hit that like button, that Cash App button, that Super Chat button. She's looking, exactly. She's just looking for a way to reject more men. Exactly. And that's another thing. That's another thing that Black women got fucked up in their wiring. They feel that their price goes up with rejection. So it's like if they reject a nurse practitioner, then God will send them a doctor. If they, reject a doctor, he'll send them a surgeon. If they reject a surgeon, then, he will send them a successful politician. That's what, because, it's like, okay, now that I have rejected a doctor, my value, my cost is now at a doctor level. This is why I only listen to Pastor Geno Jennings when it comes to Jesus Christ. Okay. I don't know who that is. Hopefully it's not this broad. I only see Black women in mass being pastors. Well, I mean, they have the Black figurehead pastor, and he is just there to say a bit and then give the mic to the woman. But he's a figurehead. He's either saying, what the women are coaching him to say, or he's just, a go-between for God and the woman. This is how deep the penis envy is. Yeah. Maybe she likes Joe Walsh. I don't know who that is. Right, technically, she's a Luciferian by definition. Okay. Bullshit, it ain't. Lost the context of that. Oh, yeah, you was talking about hazing. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was going to pledge. And it wasn't the hazing that deterred me. It was other reasons. But it was in the back of my mind, like, is this semester a good semester to get my ass whooped? And when I was first started college, I didn't know what was going on, but I quickly realized, like, like it'll be a dude, one of the homies that have like a big ass gash on his face, broken arms and shit, and then I'm like, damn, dude, what happened to you? Like, oh man, it's just fucking around and shit. It's just like a vague answer. I'm like, huh? And then a few weeks later, they got on Greek letters. It's like, oh, that's what happened. I remember I had this toothache, right? And I went and got some oral gel. And I just kept putting it on my gums, to make my tooth to numb the pain, right? And then I had it in my pocket. I kept it with me. And I pulled it out one time, and the homie was like, because he went to a different university. He was like, "Wait, you pledging?" I was like, "What?" He was like, "You pledging?" I was like, "No, I'm not pledging. What the oral gel got to do with that?" He was like, "Oh, because when brothers are on the line, they put the oral gel on their ass to numb it. But when somebody what the heck? I was like, oh man. So the homies be out there with oil gel on their ass, getting hit with a giant piece of wood. That is some shit. And I'm not knocking any of the Greek brothers. Shout out to rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. Rest in peace, Alan Roger Curry. Shout out to Information Man. Shout out to all the Greeks. But none of y'all is gonna lie to me and say that y'all don't haze. None of y'all is gonna lie. Tell me that lie. Okay, I already answered that one. Might say she thinks she's in Texas or South Carolina. All right, peace, Ray. She's definitely a once a month at most type chick. Just the fact that she held her pussy, that she had her legs closed for 10 adult years and counting, really means that it's not going to be like open season. Like sex is not high on the priority list for her. And other dudes and other Greek dudes definitely tried, and she wasn't having it. So she has rejected a lot of dudes in her life, especially as an AKA. I literally saw a black woman I worked with years ago do what you said about them rejecting guys. I'll explain exactly what happened. Yeah, I got your last email, so send another one on that. Oh wait, you're explaining now. Okay, it was my first job, and it was at fast food. The assistant manager had a 6'6" black dude from the neighborhood she had recently met. Okay. She didn't even take it seriously when she was like, it was easy to find a six-figure guy, so let me see if I can wait and find something better. Exactly. They reject as a baseline. They're like, okay, now that I've reached this level, I can do more. So I used to watch, and if it was still on, I still watch it, Dragon Ball Z. And so Goku was on this ship on the way to Namek to fight Frieza. And this ship had the ability to adjust the gravity. So he would train like at 10 times Earth gravity to make himself stronger, 10, 20 times. And then one day by mistake, he turned the machine on to like 50 times Earth gravity, and he could barely move. Like he was just crawling and his bones was being crushed, and he was like, just trying to get to the knob to turn it back down from 50 times Earth's gravity. And then after that, you know what he said? He said, now that I survived 50 times Earth's gravity, I need to train at 50 times Earth's gravity. So basically, that was to say that, okay, now that I've made it to this level, I'm going to go to the next level. And that's how these women reject. They're like, okay, now that I've rejected this guy, I can now reject the next level of guy. Shit's sad. It's sad to think about. They think that it's easy to get high level men. When they get them, they want to reach up more and more. Well, it is easy to get high level men to fill your pussy. See, they don't know what level of commitment they're rejecting because they're not entertaining him. So it's really like a downward spiral. Let's just say on a scale from 1 to 100, if you were to just break men down, all of their, aggregate of their entire value. So it's like, ooh, I rejected a 65. Now I'm going to go 70. Ooh, I rejected a 70. Now I'm going to go 80 or 75. Ooh, I rejected 75. Now I'm going to go 80. And then they do that until they finally embrace 100. And then when they get to 100, what does he do? Pump and dump. It's like, oh, okay. Well, I got pumped and dumped by 100. Let me go to 95. Oh, I got pumped and dumped by 95. Let me go to 90. Oh, 85. Oh, 80. Oh, 75. Oh, 70. Oh, 65. Oh, 60. You see how that works? That's what they do. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that was destined to happen. Play the video of the husband story. I'll go over that one day. I'm winding down actually. This is how you see guys like Keith Sweat complaining about black women, even though he's not good enough. Well, Michael B. Jordan wasn't good enough for Lori Harvey, right? I mean, like that's just how they operate. And then they say, where are all the good men out? What they really mean is, where are all the good men for me to reject that? So. All right, let's see. All right. Excuse me. Anyway, I want to thank the Cash Apps and Super Chats, managers and moderators, those who are listening silently, and those who participate in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button on your way out. This is GameChanger 00100. Game over. Peace.